At 14, a lab said I wasn't my dad's son. He left with my siblings. 4 years later, a test proved he was wrong. Now he wants me back. I said, never. 3 years ago. Original. A bunch of friends use Reddit, so this is an alternate account. I do not think the technical details will matter a lot, so I will get right down to business. 4 years ago, Dad found out my mom had a lifelong affair, more than one, but that is another story. He knew about a couple of affairs she had in the past and forgave her, hanging in there for the kids, moving on, and so on. But that time, 4 years ago, he found out me and my 2 siblings might not be his kids, considering the time of the affair. This was the first time we all heard of Mom's, well, everything, really. There was a whole DNA situation and it turned out my siblings were my dad's, and I was not. Cool, right? So Dad leaves Mom, divorces her, moves out, takes both my siblings with him, not me though. I stay behind with Mom, who hits a new low, finding herself alone, and we both become pretty much outcasts as far as most of the family is concerned. My older brother was particularly mean to me. We were really close before, and the things he did to me, I swear, had I been bigger at the time, I would have punched him hard, more than once. I do not want to get into details because I cannot since I could be recognized, but things happened and I got DNA tested again, and as it turns out, the first DNA test was messed up and I am my dad's kid. Now, I do not need legal advice on this. Grandpa is the man, always had my back, we got a lawyer, and are looking to settle. But Dad wants back in my life. Brother is calling and wanting to meet up and talk trash. I do not want to. I want these people out of my life. Mom already forgave everyone, she is going on a date with my dad, and I feel sick, but it is not my business, right? I wish them both good luck, but I want none of it, only nobody leaves me alone. I keep hearing that they are family, and I ought to hear them out and give them a chance or I will regret it later, and that the only reason I will not talk to them is because I am a teenager and stupid or some other terrible explanation. So, give me some perspective here, please. Do I sound unreasonable when I say, thanks, but absolutely not, thanks? Too long. Did not read. Dad thought I was not his kid, left, turns out I am his kid, so he wants to be friends again, and I want him gone. Update 1. Family left me. 1-8 old male when they thought I was not my dad's son but now they want to get back in touch. Too long. Did not read. Dad thought I was not his kid and left me. Now, it turns out I am his kid and he wants to be in my life again. But it has been 4 years and he was really awful to me all this time, so I do not really want to be his friend. Family says I will regret not giving him a chance, and I came to the internet for perspective. Thank you all for the advice, but I decided to go with my grandpa's, which was kind of the same most of you gave me, and I will be standing my ground. I have been really annoyed lately because a lot of people around me keep saying I am a crazy teenager and I will regret it. But Grandpa made a point that I need to stop trying to decide how I will feel in the future. Because the truth is, you can never know. You have to make decisions now, based on feelings and information you have now. Not based on feelings and information you might have later. Right now, I am disgusted by Dad and brother. I want nothing to do with them. I do not trust them. And I even think there is a chance they might be doing this, reaching out just for public image and money. If my feelings change, I will deal with that when they do. Cross the bridge when I get to it and all. I was not really going to post an update on this, because I do not see the point. My story is kind of over. But something happened yesterday, and I wanted to share. So I decided to stand by my, absolutely not, I do not want to talk to them. I will be moving to another city soon, and decided to change my number. Grandpa is the only one who will be having the new one. I asked him not to share, and I know he will not. He is a retired cop, so he is really tough and has zero patience for nonsense. My new number is safe. He called my mom and told her that, from now on, if anyone wanted to reach me, they would have to go through him. So Mom showed up at his place. I have been living with him for a while and tries to talk to me, but Grandpa says she has to talk to him first, so he can decide whether she is allowed to talk to me or not. Laughing out loud. So Mom goes insane, and starts telling him that it is none of his business and that this is between me and my dad. So Grandpa goes something like, if anybody shows up on my lawn to disturb the boy, I will get the police, a restraining order and a shotgun. It goes on for a while until Mom says I am not the only family Grandpa has, and that by doing this, Grandpa is pushing everyone away and splitting the family. He has other grandchildren. Why is he picking just this one? And so on. So Grandpa laughs and tells her that through no fault of his, this family blew up long ago, and everyone just grabbed a piece of what was left and ran for it. He looks at me and says I am his piece, so he is not letting go, and that is it. I was feeling like laughing up to this point because Mom was going crazy and all, but when he said that, I broke. Mom left after a while and I just hugged my old man like life depended on it, and he just said something like, enough now, no need for that, I am your family. Family does not leave. You remember that when you have one of your own. And I absolutely will. Too long, did not read. I will not be friends with dad and brother. I am good. Grandpa is amazing. Edit O, before I forget. Some people were asking about what my siblings were like. Well, my older brother stole or took things that were mine or supposed to be mine. He lied to me and about me, and not the innocent kid kind of lie, but messed up things that ruined relationships I had with friends, family, even a girlfriend I cared about. He was a huge bully for years, even hit me once. Mom said, he is going through a lot too, and dad could not have cared less and just protected him. Grandpa told him, if he ever hit me again, he would break my brother's teeth. I guess he believed him, because he never touched me again after that one time. Younger brother is cool, I would rather not talk about him here. Another edit. I read the comments section to Grandpa. I had to explain what original poster means and he now wants to watch Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, laughing out loud. But we thank you for all the love. Reading the replies on my first post, he just said, the internet is very smart. Reading the replies on this update, he got a little emotional and left saying he had stuff to do. But he got a beer, came back and asked if there were more people saying things. The comment comparing him to Clint Eastwood made his day. Thanks for the love, guys. Update 2. Family left me. 1 8-year-old male. When they thought I was not my dad's son but now they want to get back in touch. Too long, did not read. Dad thought I was not his kid and left me. Now, it turns out I am his kid, and he wants to be in my life again. But it has been 4 years and he was really awful to me all this time, so I do not really want to be his friend. Family says I will regret not giving him a chance, and I came to the internet for perspective. Grandpa is awesome. Older brother is a very mean person. It is an act of God that I still remember the password to this throwaway account, but seriously guys, people, you are not going to believe this. I do not believe this. The lab did not make a mistake on my results. What they did, is they mixed the results of all the children. I am my dad's biological son, but my older brother is not. Which is very strange, because he looks like dad. Maybe mom has a type. Turns out it was his lab result information with my name on it. He will be triple checking it now with another lab, but I mean seriously. The settlement has a confidential disclosure clause or something regarding details, so I will not be speaking about this ever again because it is very good money, so please be quiet. But I had to share this because, seriously, laughing out loud. If anybody is keeping score, I now believe in karma. Reminder, I am not the original poster. This is a repost. Story 2. I borrowed my mom's laptop for a work deadline and found a folder labeled, Family Memories, 2019, 2023. Inside were 5 years of Christmas mornings, 60-person graduation parties. Mountain trips without me. We just forgot, she said. The next day, I disappeared. 26 a.m., borrowed my mom's laptop last Thursday because mine crashed right before a work deadline. She handed it over without hesitation, telling me her password was the same as always. What I found changed everything I thought I knew about my family. I was looking for a USB port when I accidentally clicked on a folder labeled Family Memories 2019 to 2023. The cursor hovered over it for a moment before I opened it, expecting to see the usual collection of random photos we'd all taken together over the years. Instead, I found myself staring at hundreds of photos and videos of a family I didn't recognize as my own. There was my mom, dad, and sister at Christmas morning, unwrapping presents around a tree I'd never seen. My sister in a cap and gown at her college graduation, beaming as my parents flanked her with proud smiles. Birthday dinners at restaurants, weekend trips to the mountains, barbecues in our backyard where I apparently didn't exist. The timestamps showed these weren't old photos from before I was born. These were recent, very recent. Some were from 2 months ago. I scrolled through 5 years of family gatherings, holidays, and celebrations. For years of my family living a completely separate life without me. In every single photo, there was a glaring absence where I should have been. No empty chair. No mention of me, no wish he was here energy, just a complete family of 3 living their best life. My hands shook as I realized the pattern. Every major holiday I'd spend alone in my apartment, thinking they were too busy or had other plans, they were actually together. Every time my sister said she couldn't make it to my birthday because of school, she was celebrating something else with them. Every excuse, every rain check, every maybe next time had been a lie. I found videos, too. Dad giving a toast at my sister's graduation party, talking about how proud he was of his amazing daughter and how grateful he was for his perfect little family. Mom laughing as she served cake, telling someone off camera about how nice it was to have just the 3 of them for once. The worst part was how happy they all looked. This wasn't some grudging obligation or forced family time. They were genuinely enjoying themselves, genuinely happy to be together without me. I closed the laptop and sat in my car for 35 minutes, trying to process what I just discovered. For years of systematic exclusion. For years of being lied to about why I wasn't invited to anything. For years of believing I was part of a family that had apparently voted me out without telling me. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times I called my mom to check in. All the times I'd asked about family plans. All the times they'd made me feel like the problem for wanting to be included. I thought about my sister's graduation, which I'd found out about through a mutual friend's social media post. When I'd asked her about it, she'd said it was just a small ceremony with no celebration after. The photos showed a party for 60 people. I thought about the Christmas before last when they told me they were keeping it low-key that year and maybe we'd do something in January instead. The photos showed a full Christmas morning with stockings, a massive tree, and what looked like enough presents to stock a small store. I thought about my birthday 2 months ago, when they'd all been too busy to celebrate with me. The timestamp on one of the mountain trip photos showed they'd been together that same week, hiking and having what looked like an amazing time. By morning, I made my decision. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't ask for explanations, or give them a chance to lie to me again. I blocked all 3 of them on everything. Phone, social media, email, everything. Then I changed my own phone number, and moved apartments within 3 weeks. I told my landlord I had a family emergency and needed to break my lease early. Technically, it wasn't a lie. I told my job I needed to relocate for personal reasons and asked to transfer to our branch in another city. They approved it immediately. I didn't leave a note. I didn't send a message. I just disappeared from their lives the same way they'd made me disappear from theirs. For 4 months, I heard nothing. Part of me wondered if they'd even noticed I was gone, or if they were just relieved they didn't have to make excuses anymore. Then my phone started ringing. My new number was unlisted, but somehow my mom had tracked it down. She called 23 times in one day. When I didn't answer, she started calling my work. When that didn't work, she showed up at my old apartment and harassed my former neighbors until someone told her I'd moved. She found my new address through what I can only assume was some serious detective work or possibly illegal means. I came home from work one day to find her sitting on my doorstep, crying. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes were wrinkled, and she had dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept in weeks. She started talking the moment she saw me, telling me how worried they'd all been, how they'd been looking for me everywhere, how they couldn't understand why I'd just vanished. I told her I knew about the photos. I told her I'd seen everything. All 5 years of their secret family life. I told her I knew about every lie, every excuse. Every time they'd chosen to exclude me, and then lied about why. The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't surprise or confusion. It was the look of someone who'd been caught. She tried to explain. She said it had started small, just a few times when they'd made plans and forgot to include me. She said they felt bad about it but didn't know how to bring it up. She said it had snowballed from there, and before they knew it, it had become a pattern they didn't know how to break. I asked her why. Why exclude me? Why lie? Why make me feel like I was the problem for wanting to be part of my own family? She couldn't give me a real answer. She talked about how I'd always been different. How I'd never quite fit in with their dynamic. How sometimes it was just easier when it was the 3 of them. She said they'd never meant to hurt me. They'd just gotten used to doing things without me. I told her that was exactly the problem. They'd gotten used to me not being there. They'd gotten comfortable with my absence. They'd built a family that functioned better without me in it. And then they'd lied to my face about it for 5 years. She begged me to come home. She said they could fix this. They could start over. They could include me in everything from now on. She said she'd delete all the photos. They'd never have another family gathering without me. They'd make it right. I told her it was too late for that. You can't unring a bell. You can't unsee 5 years of evidence that your family is happier without you. You can't unfeel the pain of discovering that the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally have been systematically excluding you from their lives and lying about it. She left crying, but she didn't give up. None of them did. Update 1. My sister showed up next. She'd driven 8 hours to get to my city, and she looked almost as bad as my mom had. She'd been crying, and she kept apologizing over and over, saying she'd never meant for it to go this far. She told me the truth about how it had started. Apparently, it began during my junior year of college when I'd been going through a rough patch and had been, in her words, kind of a downer at family events. She said I'd been negative and complaining a lot, and it had made everyone uncomfortable. So, they'd started having smaller gatherings without me. Just for the fun events, she said they'd still include me in the important stuff, except that line had kept moving. First, it was just casual dinners, then it was birthday celebrations, then holidays, then graduations. Eventually, I was only included in things like funerals or when they needed something from me. She said she'd felt guilty about it the whole time, but she'd never known how to bring it up. She said every time she'd considered telling me, too much time had passed, and it would have been too awkward to explain. I asked her about her graduation. She'd looked me in the eye and told me it was just a small ceremony with no party. She'd hugged me and said she wished I could be there, but understood why I couldn't make the drive for something so small. She broke down completely when I brought that up. She said she'd wanted to invite me, but by then the pattern was so established that including me would have felt weird. She said everyone would have asked questions about why I was suddenly there after being absent for so long. So, instead of dealing with that awkwardness, she'd chosen to lie to me and let me miss one of the biggest days of her life. I told her that was the most selfish thing I'd ever heard. She'd prioritized her own comfort over having her brother at her graduation. She'd chosen to protect herself from awkward questions rather than include me in her family. She begged me to forgive her. She said she'd been young and stupid, that she'd followed my parents' lead without thinking about how it would affect me. She said she missed me and wanted her brother back. I told her she'd never had a brother. She'd had a family member she occasionally tolerated when it was convenient and excluded when it wasn't. That's not the same thing. She left, but like my mom, she didn't stop trying. Update 2. My dad was the last one to show up, and his approach was completely different. He didn't cry or beg or apologize. He was angry. He told me I was being dramatic and childish. He said families go through rough patches and instead of working through it like an adult, I'd run away like a teenager. He said I was punishing them for something that wasn't even that big of a deal. I showed him some of the photos I'd saved on my phone before blocking them. I showed him the Christmas morning photos, the graduation party, the birthday dinners, the family trips. I asked him to explain how 5 years of systematic exclusion wasn't that big of a deal. He got defensive. He said I'd been difficult during college, that I brought negative energy to family events, that sometimes they just wanted to have peaceful gatherings without drama. He said they tried to include me, but I'd always found something to complain about. I asked him for specific examples. He couldn't give me any. I asked him to explain the lies. Why not just tell me I wasn't invited instead of making up elaborate excuses? Why make me think they were too busy, or that events weren't happening when they were actually happening without me? He said they'd been trying to spare my feelings. They thought it would be easier for me if I didn't know what I was missing. I told him that was the most condescending thing I'd ever heard. They decided I was too fragile to handle the truth. So, they'd lied to me for 5 years and let me believe I was part of a family that had actually written me out of their story. He said I was overreacting. He said every family has problems, and I was making this bigger than it needed to be. He said if I just come home, we could all move past this, and start fresh. I asked him if he'd delete all the photos, if he'd acknowledge that what they'd done was wrong, if he'd take responsibility for 5 years of lies and exclusion. He said he wasn't going to delete family memories just because I was upset about not being in them. He said those were good times, and he wasn't going to pretend they hadn't happened. That's when I realized he didn't actually think they'd done anything wrong. He thought I was the problem for being upset about it. He thought I should just get over it and be grateful they were willing to include me now. I told him to leave and never come back. Update 3. It's been 8 months since I cut them off, and 4 months since they found me and started their campaign to get me back. They finally stopped showing up at my apartment, but they haven't stopped trying. They've enlisted other family members to reach out to me. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family, friends, all telling me that I need to forgive my family, that life is too short to hold grudges, that families fight, but they work through it. What they don't understand is that this wasn't a fight. This was 5 years of being systematically erased from my own family while being lied to about it. This was discovering that the people who raised me had built a life that functioned better without me in it. I've started therapy to work through it all. My therapist has helped me understand that what they did was a form of emotional abuse. They isolated me, gaslighted me about it, and then tried to make me feel like I was the problem for being upset about it. She's also helped me understand that their recent behavior, tracking me down, showing up uninvited, refusing to accept my boundaries, is a continuation of that abuse. They're still trying to control the narrative and make this about my reaction rather than their actions. Last week, I got a letter from my mom. She'd somehow found my work address and sent it there. In it, she told me that my dad had been diagnosed with early-stage cancer. She said the family needed to come together during this difficult time, and that my absence was making everything harder for everyone. She said I was being selfish by staying away when my family needed me most. She said I was punishing my dad for something that wasn't even his fault, and that I'd regret it if something happened to him while we were estranged. I felt guilty for about 15 minutes. Then I remembered the photos of them celebrating my birthday weekend without me while I sat alone in my apartment. I remembered my dad telling me I was overreacting and that he wasn't going to delete their good memories just because I was upset about being excluded from them. I remembered that this is exactly what abusive families do. They create a crisis and then blame you for not dropping everything to help them through it. They make their problems your fault, and their healing your responsibility. I didn't respond to the letter. 3 days later, My sister called my work directly and somehow got transferred to my extension. She was crying again, telling me that Dad was scared and asking for me, that the whole family was falling apart without me, that I needed to come home. I told her that if Dad wanted to talk to me, he could call me himself and apologize for 5 years of exclusion and lies. I told her that if the family was falling apart, maybe they should have thought about that before they spent 5 years building a family that didn't include me. I told her that I wasn't responsible for fixing what they broke, and I wasn't going to set myself on fire to keep them warm. She said I'd changed, that I'd become cold and cruel, that the brother she knew would never abandon his family like this. I told her she was right. The brother she knew was gone. He died the day I found those photos and realized his family had been living a secret life without him for 5 years. What was left was someone who finally understood his worth and refused to accept scraps from people who had shown him exactly how little he meant to them. I hung up and blocked the work number. The truth is, I am different now. I'm not the person who used to beg for inclusion and accept whatever crumbs of attention my family was willing to throw my way. I'm not the person who made excuses for their behavior and blamed myself for not being good enough to deserve their love. I've built a new life in my new city. I've made friends who actually want me around. I've started dating someone who thinks I'm worth including in their plans. I've discovered what it feels like to be wanted instead of tolerated. My family had 5 years to include me, for years to be honest with me, for years to treat me like I mattered. Instead, they chose to exclude me and lie about it. They chose to build a family that worked better without me. Now they want me back because they're facing a crisis and they need someone to blame for their problems. They want me to forget 5 years of systematic exclusion because it's convenient for them now. But I remember what it felt like to see those photos. I remember the gut punch of realizing that my family was happier without me. I remember the humiliation of discovering that I'd been begging for inclusion in a family that had already decided I didn't belong. I remember, and I'm not going back. They made their choice 5 years ago. Now I'm making mine. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired. Some families, once they show you who they really are, don't deserve a second chance. I'm finally free. And I'm not giving that up for people who had to lose me to realize they wanted me. They can keep their photos and their memories of their perfect little family of 3. I'm building something better without them. My parents left for 5 weeks in Europe, handed me $30, and a dead credit card at 12. When they threw a party for 45 guests, the police walked in. My name is Caleb Mercer, and I learnt at the age of 12 that food is not assured. People often take it for granted until they no longer have it. My parents informed me in August that they were planning a 5-week trip to Europe, Barcelona, Rome, and Mykonos. They left 3 $10 notes and a silver credit card on the kitchen counter simply for emergencies, my mother explained as she pulled her luggage out the door. They did not wait for a response. They did not look back. I had no idea the card was not active. I didn't realize the $30 would have to last 35 days. And I had no idea that when they returned with a celebration for 45 guests to commemorate their fantastic European summer, the cops would stroll into our living room and read them their rights in front of everyone. But that's the end. This is where it began. The night they left, I remained at the doorway long after the Uber had disappeared around the corner. The home felt bigger than usual, and it was quiet enough that I could hear the refrigerator humming across the hall. I did not say anything. There was no point. As a child, you assume your parents know what they're doing. Even if the arithmetic doesn't add up, 35 days equals $30. It accumulated up quickly. I hadn't realized until much later that someone else, 45 individuals, would witness the consequence. They'd watch the cops go by the catered food, the slideshow of cathedral images, and my mother's flawless smile, then ask a question none of them had ever asked before. What have you done to your son? But it wasn't the shock. The shock was how simple it was for them to depart. The Mercer family lived in a 2-story home on the west side of Phoenix. Beige walls, a tidy lawn, and cactus plants arranged in perfect harmony. My mother appreciated order, rows, angles, and frames. Everything, including us, had to appear intentional. We kept 2 cars inside the garage. My mother drives a white Lexus hybrid, and my father drives a charcoal pickup. Both were pristine and chosen because they photographed my mother. Vanessa Mercer wasn't famous, but she acted like it. She maintained an interior design Instagram account with 18,000 followers. Her biography described modern desert existence. Every week, she shared selected pictures of Sunday brunch settings, matching throw pillows, and holiday wreaths. She altered with each season. Blessed and appreciative, family comes first. If you scrolled far enough, you'd discover something unusual. There were few images of me. When I did appear, I was either blurred in the background or cropped at the shoulder. Mom claimed it was for privacy. However, I did not fit the palette. My shirts were not neutral enough. My reactions were not staged enough, and I did not smile on cue. My father, Daniel, Worked long hours as a civil engineer. He returned home exhausted, his head full of statistics and deadlines. He allowed Mom to speak. When she made a decision, he nodded. He was not nasty, but absent, like if he had selected the quietest part of the house and remained there. By the age of 12, I'd learned to move around my parents rather than with them, to prepare my own cereal, microwave leftovers, to walk to school alone, and to sign permission sheets when my mother forgot. Nothing major. Just the little things you do when you notice no one is paying attention. When guests arrived, Mom referred to me as our independent one. She said it with a lighthearted giggle and practiced. Like independence was a personality attribute I picked, rather than one I was compelled to have. She never awaited my reaction. I stopped offering one. People enjoyed our home. They liked my mother. They enjoyed the thought of us. The ideal family, in the ideal neighborhood, with the ideal illumination. But there is a reason why perfection is so quiet. Quiet conceals things. When I was 12, I assumed invisibility was normal. That every child learnt to make himself smaller so that his parents could shine brighter online. I hadn't realized that being ignored wasn't an accident. It was the design. 3 weeks before everything fell apart, my mother summoned me downstairs. She sat on the couch, her laptop open, the screen shining with a booking website, while my father stood near the window, arms folded, staring at nothing in particular. "Caleb," Mom replied in a cheerful tone, as if she were discussing dinner plans. "Your father and I need a getaway. 5 weeks throughout Europe, including Barcelona, Rome, and Mykonos. We leave on Monday." I waited. She did not look up. Dad did not turn around. "Okay." I finally asked, "Who am I staying with?" And Mom clicked something on the screen. "You're staying here alone?" She grumbled, angry that I had even inquired. "You're 12, not 5. You know how to care for yourself." I didn't object, but something in my stomach constricted. I looked at Dad. He kept staring out the window, jaw tight, pretending he hadn't heard. "What about Grandma?" I asked. "Or Uncle Ryan?" "Your grandmother is busy." Mom spoke sharply. Ryan stopped, her lips hardening. "We do not include him in family problems. You are aware of this." I wasn't sure why. I only knew his name made her shoulders tense. Mom stood, took 3 $10 notes from her pocketbook, and placed them on the coffee table next to a silver credit card. $30 for snacks. She tapped the card, and stated it was for emergencies. Real emergencies. "Don't use it until the home is burning down." I nodded once. That is all she anticipated. "Good," she murmured, returning to her laptop. "We'll be back in exactly 5 weeks. I took up the bills and the card. They felt far lighter than they should have. Monday morning, I saw them pull their baggage into the Uber. Mom wore a new dress. Dad had the same expression. He was usually exhausted. Distant, elsewhere. "Remember to lock up," Mom added, waving without looking at me. "And do not worry anyone." The door closed. The automobile pulled away. The street became quiet. I stood there longer than I intended, waiting for anything. Perhaps a second glance. Perhaps a goodbye. That felt like a goodbye. Nothing arrived. Inside, the house echoed. It already felt as if they were gone. Later on, I realized that this was the breaking point of the story. But at 11, I just comprehended one thing. I was on my own now. The first night alone, the place did not feel like home. It felt like a container room piled with silence. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling and listening to faint sounds I'd never heard. The refrigerator hums, the air conditioner kicks on, and a dog barks 2 streets over. I barely slept. The following morning, I opened the refrigerator. Half a carton of milk for eggs, a stale loaf of bread, a jar of pasta sauce, and nothing else, no fruit, leftovers, or full meals. I placed the $30 on the counter and did the arithmetic. 35 days, $30, or around 85 cents per day. I did not react. Just shut the fridge and stood there until the silence became thick. On day 4, I walked to the tiny grocery store down the street, grabbed a basket, and walked methodically through the aisles, checking pricing twice. Ramen was cheap, costing about 70 cents each pack. Bread cost over $1. Peanut butter was too pricey. I purchased 6 boxes of ramen, and the cheapest loaf of bread I could find. The clerk asked if I was shopping alone. "My mom is in the car," I explained. Back home, I divided a pack of ramen into 2 dinners. Half for breakfast and half for dinner. It was hardly enough, but it was food. I pretended everything was fine. On day 6, I attempted to order a pizza online, entered my credit card information, and was rejected. I tried again, and was declined. I flipped the card over, rang the number, and heard the robotic voice inform me that the card was not active. My chest clenched, but I didn't say anything out. That evening, I called my mother. 5 rings. She responded. On the 7th. Music is playing loudly in the background. "The card does not work." I said. She moaned, as if I might ruin her holiday. Caleb, please quit being dramatic. You have money. You will be all right. Don't call again until the situation is critical. It's serious, Caleb, she snapped. I am at supper. Eat less. Figure it out. Do not make this a thing. She hung up. I did not cry. I simply sat on the kitchen floor, back against the fridge, and felt my gut twist in on itself. Hunger is quiet like that. A gradual tightness that makes your thoughts little. Later that night, I opened Instagram. My mother had posted a photo of herself and my father, in front of the Rome Cathedral. She carried a glass of wine. The caption said, "Living our best life." I looked at it for a long time. Then I took the old tablet she gave me after updating. I opened the camera and pressed the record button. Day 6, I stated. Ramen for dinner. The card didn't work. My voice was flat, not furious, just exhausted. I didn't know why I had taped it. Maybe because no one believed children until they provided proof. Perhaps staying silent no longer felt like a safe option. I wasn't aware that anyone was observing. Not them. Someone else. For now, it was just me. A calm home. After only 5 weeks, it felt like a year. On day 8, someone knocked at the door. I froze for a second. Nobody ever stopped by for me. I stepped to the window, as is my custom, and saw Mr. Whitaker next door, a blue house with peeling paint, and an elderly tabby cat that was constantly sitting in the window. He had waved at me for years, but we had never had a proper chat. I only opened the door enough to glance at him. Hey there, Caleb? He asked. His eyes examined me in a way that most grown-ups did not. Haven't seen your parents' cars around? Everything all right? They're on a trip, I informed you. Business? My voice was regular. Practiced. Uh-huh. He slowly nodded. And who's looking after you? I'm good, I answered. Perhaps too fast. I can handle it. He didn't question the falsehood. He simply studied me. I have cracked lips. My shirt hung a little looser than it usually did. The darkness underneath my eyes. If he understood precisely what he was looking at. He didn't speak. Did you eat today? He inquired. Automatic. Not true. He sighed, softly and exhausted. Listen, son. I made too much spaghetti. I hate to throw it away. Do you want a plate? I didn't want anything from anyone. Pride hits harder when you're hungry, yet hunger triumphed. Okay, I said. At his table, I ate in silence. Not fast. Not desperate, but steady. He did not say much either, which I appreciated. Some adults fill silence with noise. He let quiet remain silent. After I finished, he folded his hands. Caleb, where are your folks really? I didn't intend to tell him, but tiredness causes honesty to come out. Europe, I answered. 5 weeks. They left $30. The card doesn't work. He did not respond with astonishment or fury. Just take a long, slow breath. That made it both worse and better. He was not startled by the cruelty. He recognized it. You need me to call someone? He inquired gently. Police? A relative? Anyone? I shook my head quickly. Please don't. My mother said not to bother anyone. His jaw stiffened. He did not argue, however. All right, he replied calmly. I won't call, but I'm bringing you meals. There's no excuse. I didn't thank him out loud, didn't know how. But something relaxed inside me, hardly apparent. It's like loosening a belt by one notch. His last words to me were, Caleb, sometimes it's the things you write down or record that protect you later. Evidence matters. I didn't fully understand it at the time, but the significance of the term evidence stayed with me. Whitaker fulfilled his commitment. He remained mute. He didn't meddle, but he did observe. He cared. And he waited longer than necessary, until waiting became unavoidable. By day 21, hunger was no longer the worst part. The hardest aspect was how normal it began to feel. Wake up, check the fridge, divide what was left, and try not to ponder too much. Repeat. That was the day I decided to record everything fully, rather than just short, shaky snippets. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. Whitaker's remarks kept circling in my mind. Evidence can sometimes protect you, therefore I approached it as a job. Every morning, before I spoke to anyone, I picked up the old tablet and hit record. Day 21, I announced, pointing the camera toward the refrigerator. 2 eggs remain. Bread is almost gone. No milk. I focused on expiration dates, empty shelves, and my hands, which were slimmer than they had been 5 weeks before. I filmed the bathroom scale. 88 pounds. Down another one. No emotion. Just facts. Cold. Simple facts. I screenshot every email my mother sends. The shorter ones. The annoyed ones. They suggested I was being emotional, or that she was on vacation and couldn't handle it. I read them aloud on camera with a bland voice. I would sometimes hold the tablet at arm's length and simply document myself. The shadows behind my eyes. The ribs are starting to show. I didn't give speeches. I did not explain. I simply provided the date and numbers. It was easier that way. My journal was next. I found a spiral notebook in a drawer. I composed short entries. Efficient. Day 22. 1 egg and half ramen. Day 22. The stomach hurts. Mom posted a lobster supper in Monaco. Day 23. There's no food left. Whitaker delivered a sandwich. I don't know why he cares. Day 24. The school emailed Mom. No response. When the house felt too huge at night, I would scroll through my mother's Instagram posts. Her photos show her standing on terraces overlooking the beach, dishes full of olives, fish, and pastries, with notes like, savor every moment. I did not become angry. I did not yell. I just made another video. Day 24, I stated. She spent more on one supper than I have in a week. The tablet became a sort of anchor, a link between what I felt and what I knew. If I couldn't trust adults, I could rely on evidence. Hard data and proof. Whitaker observed the shift. You're documenting more. He stated it one evening as he dropped off dinner. He nodded once, as if he understood something unspoken. Keep going. So I did. Every day, every meal, every email, every phone call. Not because I intended vengeance. I was not thinking that far. I just wanted the truth to be somewhere outside of my head, where it couldn't be argued, and could be seen. Summer school begins in the 3rd week. My mother had signed me up months before, not because she was concerned about my academics, but because she didn't want me to sit around all summer. I now understand the real cause. It protected folks from realizing I was alone. The first day, I arrived late. My clothing was crumpled. I hadn't figured out the washing machine yet. My hair stuck up in spots. I hadn't slept longer than a couple hours in days. I kept my head down while walking to my seat. Caleb, Mrs. Bennett replied, her tone quieter than normal. Are you okay? Yes, ma'am. Short and automatic. She didn't push, but I could feel her eyes on me throughout class. Day 4. The room tilted during math. The board blurred. I attempted to blink it away and sit straighter, but my body didn't care what I did. My hand slipped from the desk. Then the floor rose faster than I imagined. I opened my eyes to find myself resting on the nurse's cot. The school nurse loomed over me, her gaze filled with worry. Honey, did you eat breakfast this morning? Yes, I said. It seemed easier than explaining anything. What did you eat? Ramen earlier. Even I noticed my voice was faint. She did not argue. She walked me to the scale. Numbers flashed. 97. 88. I'd lost 9 pounds in less than 4 weeks. She wrote something down. Then there's another thing. Her expression stiffened. Caleb, she said gently. Where are your parents? I asked, looking down at my hands. They appeared smaller, bones near the surface. There, not here. Who's taking care of you? It was quiet. I was not trying to hide anything. I just didn't know how to respond in a way that wouldn't ruin my life. Finally, I said, no one. The nurse stared at me for a long time. No pity. Genuine concern. She stepped outside and returned with Mrs. Bennett. They spoke quietly, but their gazes remained fixed on me. Bennett sat down by the cot. Caleb, she said kindly. You don't have to explain everything right now, but I need you to know. We see you. I wasn't crying. I only nodded once. That's all I could manage. That evening, my mother called. I was at the kitchen table, eating rice Whitaker had brought over, when my phone rang with an overseas number. Caleb, she replied abruptly, her voice shrill. The school called me. What did you say? Nothing. You're embarrassing me, she yelled. I'm in Mykonos having dinner. And I get a call stating, you have health worries. You have food and money. Stop being dramatic. I remained silent. If you tell anyone anything, anyone, I will send you to a boarding school the moment I come home. Do you understand me? My jaw firmed up. Don't call again. Click. I stared at the table and the plain dinner in front of me. Something within me settled. Not broken. Not defeated. Just settled. That night, I created another video. Day 25, I stated. She threatened me. I am not lying. I am not exaggerating. This is what it is. I didn't know it yet, but that was the final moment the grown-ups at school needed. Their silence wasn't an option anymore. The report was coming. Day 25. Someone tapped again, not hesitant this time, steady, determined. I checked the window the way I always did. A woman stood on the porch. Blazer. Clipboard. Calm posture. I opened the door halfway. Hi, Caleb, she murmured with a modest, steady smile. My name is Melissa Carter. I'm with Child Protective Services. May I come in? I didn't move at first. Mom's voice echoed in my head. Don't tell anyone anything. But I was tired. Tired of the solitude, the hunger, the guessing. And something about Melissa felt anchored, like she wasn't here to guess. Okay, I said. Inside, she didn't look about rapidly the way curious adults do. She took her time. The silent living room, the mound of unwashed dishes. The air that seemed heavy. She wrote a few of notes. No expression altering on her face. Your parents are in Europe? She inquired. Yes, ma'am. How long have you been alone? 4 weeks. Who's been taking care of you? I stopped, then answered the only honest way I could. No one. Melissa didn't flinch. She simply nodded and closed her notebook. Can I see the kitchen? I escorted her there. She opened the refrigerator. The frigid light exposed everything. 2 eggs. An almost empty loaf of bread. Condiments. Nothing else. She checked the trash. Ramen wrappers especially. Then she turned to look at me again. Not startled. Not pitying. Just seeing. Caleb, is there anything you want to show me? This time, I didn't hesitate. I walked to my room, grabbed the tablet, and handed it to her. I recorded stuff, I said, in case someone thought I was lying. She pressed play on a clip of me displaying the empty fridge, the date, the scale reading. When the video ended, she inhaled slowly. You're very brave, Caleb, she remarked. These videos are important. Her voice wasn't theatrical, just solid. Then she asked something no grown-up had asked me before. Do you want to be safe? A simple inquiry. Heavy answer. Melissa nodded once, like a promise had been made. The next morning, she called my mother. I wasn't in the room, but Melissa told me what happened afterward. Hi, this is Melissa Carter from Arizona Child Protective Services. Mom's tone turned sweet. Oh my goodness. Is Caleb okay? What happened? Melissa explained the report. The days alone. The weight decrease. Mom laughed gently. Caleb exaggerates. He has a babysitter. Hannah Collins. Lovely woman. Melissa inquired for the babysitter's contact. Mom said she'd send it right over. She never did. Melissa checked. There was no Hannah Collins in the neighborhood registry. No one had visited the house. So Melissa filed a subpoena for my parents' credit card statements. 5 days later, she took the documents to Mr. Whitaker's residence, where she had moved me temporarily for safety. Caleb, she murmured, opening the folder carefully. Your parents spent $52,740 in Europe these 5 weeks. Restaurants, hotels, shopping. She switched the page. The supplementary card they left with you, another weight. It was never activated. You couldn't have bought anything even if you tried. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. Something inside me, not wrath, not grief, just aligned, like the truth had finally stepped into the room. What happens now? I asked. Melissa closed the folder gently. Now, she added, we make sure you're safe. And when your parents return, there will be consequences. My parents returned home on a Saturday, a clear Arizona sky, heat coming off the pavement in waves from Mr. Whitaker's living room window. I saw the preparations begin long before they arrived. Cars driving up, neighbors with gift bags, women in sundresses, men in golf shirts, 45 people showing up to celebrate a vacation I hadn't eaten through. Inside my house, balloons hung from the banister. A banner hung across the living room. Welcome home, Mercers. A slideshow ran on the TV, photographs from Europe, cathedrals, beaches, champagne glasses, my mother posing like she belonged everywhere but home. I wasn't in the house, wasn't at the celebration. They had no idea where I was. From Whitaker's window, I could see my mother going through the crowd. Fresh clothing, fresh tan, new jewelry from Milan. She touched people's arms when she chatted, laughed too loud, performed, always performing. Dad trailed behind her, nodding and smiling like he was half a second behind in his own life. They didn't look worried. Clip folks. They didn't look like folks who were about to be arrested. Melissa arrived first. Dark sedan. Calm. Walk. Clipboard in hand. 2 uniformed officers behind her, Officer Grant and Officer Ramirez. They waited across the street, out of view. My mother lifted a champagne glass. Guests clapped. She started a speech. Something about recharging. Gratitude. Family time. Witnessing from a distance was strange, disconnected, like witnessing someone else's life fall in slow motion. Then the doorbell rang. Mom opened it with her party smile already set. The smile vanished abruptly as she noticed Melissa. Mercer, Melissa said. Professional. Steady. I'm Melissa Carter with Child Protective Services. These officers are here with me. We need to speak with you, and your husband. Conversation paused. Music kept playing strangely as 45 people turned to see. My mother tried to step outside, keeping her voice calm, pretending everything was all right. This really isn't a good time. We're hosting. This concerns your son, Melissa remarked. The room went silent. Dad walked forward, confused. Is Caleb okay? Melissa didn't bother softening anything. Your son has been in protective custody for 5 days. Mom's face snapped into something sharp. What? That's impossible. He's upstairs resting. She shouted it loudly. For the room, not for Melissa. Melissa lifted the folder. Caleb has not been in this house for 5 days. He has been staying with a neighbor for his safety. Whispers swept through the crowd like heat. Mom laughed. Hi. Brittle. This is ridiculous. There has been some mistake. Melissa opened the folder. We have video documentation recorded by Caleb over a 4-week period. Empty refrigerator. Weight loss. Your emails. The school's medical report. And your credit card statements obtained through subpoena. Dad's face drained. He seemed like he was shrinking. Mom's voice cracked. This is being blown out of proportion. He had a babysitter. There was no babysitter. Melissa responded quietly. We verified with the neighborhood registry. No adult entered this home for 35 days. Someone in the crowd gasped. A champagne flute clinked against tile. My mother's eyes raced across the room, searching for someone to believe her. No one moved. Then Melissa nodded to the officers. Officers, please proceed. My mother backed up rapidly, running into the coffee table. No, wait. This is a misunderstanding. Officer Grant stepped forward. Ma'am, you are being charged with child endangerment under Arizona Revised Statute 13-3623. Please turn around and place your hands behind your back. The room froze. It felt like the air stopped moving. Dad reached toward Mom, voice shaking. Vanessa, just do what they say. She yelled at him. Don't touch me. This is your fault too. But, she still turned around. The metallic snap of shackles rang in a room full of individuals who had once loved her Instagram posts. Dad didn't run, didn't argue. When the second cop reached him, he just exhaled, like someone finally letting go of a weight he'd been pretending not to carry. Sir, please place your hands behind your back. He complied. Melissa then nodded to Officer Ramirez. Please play it. The slideshow on the TV flickered off. A new video appears. Me holding the iPad, speaking right into the camera. Day 15, my voice stated. There's one egg left. Mom posted a picture from Monaco. The video revealed the empty fridge, the scale, my face thinner, eyes faint. Guests gazed, frightened. One woman covered her mouth. A man gasped. Oh my God. Another clip. Day 21. Reading my mother's emails aloud. Hearing her discard me while eating at Michelin star restaurants. Then the video from day 25. The threat. Her words. My monotone voice repeating them. My mother broke. Not out of guilt, but out of terror. He's lying, she yelled. He's editing those tapes. He's making me look mad. Melissa responded, quiet but final. Your son told the truth. He documented the truth. This is what occurred. My mother's voice trembled into a whisper. He was never supposed to show anyone. And, there was the moment I understood she wasn't appalled by what she'd done. She was horrified she'd been seen. The officers guided my parents toward the door. People moved out of the way, surprised, silent. No goodbyes, no sympathy, just distance. On the porch, additional neighbors had assembled. Phones hovered. Recording. My mother's face fell as she fully realized the shape of the outcome. She tried to look for me. Some innate last attempt to find control, but I wasn't there. Not for her. Not anymore. From Whitaker's window, I witnessed the cops place them in separate cars. I didn't smile. Didn't weep. Didn't experience triumph. Just finality. A subtle closing of a door that had been hanging open too long. The lights on the patrol cars flashed once, twice, then they drove away. The world didn't end, it just got honest. The day after the arrest, my world didn't move the way I expected. The house was remained quiet. Whitaker still made breakfast. The Arizona heat still pressed against the windows. Life didn't burst, it just kept moving. Melissa sat with me at Whitaker's kitchen table that morning. A large folder in front of her. Caleb, I want you to understand what happens next. I nodded. No questions. I was used to letting adults talk. Your parents will be charged with child endangerment. It's a felony in this state. Her voice was calm, like she'd done this talk 100 times. I absorbed the knowledge in the same way I'd taken everything else that month, quietly. One piece at a time. They'll likely take a plea deal to avoid trial, she continued. Probation, community service, obligatory counseling. I waited. And Caleb, the state will move to suspend their parental rights, at least temporarily. I didn't flinch. People expect kids to tear down at a sentence like that. Ask why. I just answered, okay. Melissa examined me for a bit, maybe anticipating more, but there wasn't anything else. Do you want to know if they asked about you? She said gently. It came out quicker than I thought, but it was the truth. She closed the folder. You don't have to see them. You don't have to speak to them. Everything goes through me or through the court. That seemed weirdly, like breathing room. A week later, their lawyer tried to contact me, not directly. Everything filtered through Melissa. He added, my clients misjudged the situation, that the 5 weeks alone were an oversight, and that they deeply regretted the misunderstanding. He didn't mention the credit card or the emails or the films. Melissa responded for me. I didn't need to. The proof said everything. Court hearings came soon. I wasn't required to attend, and I didn't. I preferred distance. People think kids seek closure. I craved quiet. In the end, the court ruled exactly what Melissa had expected. 3 years probation, 250 hours of community service, required parenting programs, and a permanent ban on their parental rights. Parents have a duty, the judge had said. According to Melissa, these parents abandoned theirs. When Melissa told me, I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel vindicated. The ruling didn't give me back the food I didn't eat or the nights I didn't sleep. It merely drew a line in the sand, a boundary the world finally agreed I deserved. 5 days after the hearing, someone knocked on Mr. Whitaker's door. Not a heavy knock. Light. Unsure. Whitaker stared at me before opening it. A woman stood there. Mid-30s. Jeans. Simple sweater. No makeup created for Instagram. Her eyes roamed the room until they fell on me. Caleb, she whispered, voice shaking just a little. I'm your aunt, Claire Donovan. The name wasn't familiar. My mother never talked about her, or anyone really. I didn't move, didn't say anything. She stepped inside, when Whitaker motioned her in. When she finally stood close enough to see me fully, my weight loss, the shadows on my face, her expression broke. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered. She stopped herself from reaching out, giving me room. That won a point in her favor. Your teacher called me, she said. Bennett. She found my number in an old emergency contact form your mother forgot to erase. She let out a sigh. I came as soon as I heard. I nodded once. I didn't know what to do with her remarks, so I didn't do anything. We sat at Whitaker's kitchen table, she explained slowly, cautiously, like she knew I didn't trust easily. Your mother and I stopped talking 6 years ago, she added, because I told her she cared more about her image than about being a parent. She didn't appreciate hearing that. That tracked with the woman I knew. Claire stared at me straight. What happened is not your fault, none of it, and you're not going back to that house. I observed her, steady, calm. I didn't see pity. I saw resolve. She brought out documents. CPS had approved temporary guardianship. She had filed to make it permanent. I inspected her face. Not looking for lies, just trying to understand why someone I barely knew would battle for me. Why? I finally said. She retained my stare. Because you're family, and because someone should have shown up for you a long time ago. I didn't respond. But something inside me moved. Not hope. Not yet. More like permission. Permission to entertain the concept that I didn't have to do everything alone. Moving inside her place seemed odd. Smaller than my prior house. Messier. Warmer. This room's yours, she remarked, opening a door to a modest bedroom. We can set it up however you want. Posters, shelves, your choice. My decision. That wasn't a phrase I heard often growing up. We ate dinner together. Pasta with canned sauce. Nothing extraordinary, but she sat across from me, truly listening as I answered questions. Not performing. Not pretending. I'm not perfect, she said one night. I'll mess up sometimes, but I'm here, and I'm staying. I didn't say anything back. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I didn't know how to respond to something that didn't ask anything from me. But when she scribbled Caleb's basketball tryouts on the kitchen calendar 4 weeks later, something loosened in my chest. Not trust. Not yet, but the beginning of it. Healing didn't arrive in any big event. It showed up slowly, almost unnoticed, like the way soreness diminishes after an injury. One day you discover the agony is still there, just quieter. Claire put me in therapy within 6 weeks of living with her. My therapist, Dr. Thompson, didn't ask me to unload everything in the first session. She didn't push. She just asked questions that made room. Caleb, how are you sleeping? Are you eating enough? Do you feel safe? A silence. She observed me, not doubting the words, but studying the way I carried them. Over time, I discovered therapy wasn't about retelling every memory. It was more like sifting tools, figuring out which ones were broken, which ones still worked, which ones I needed to develop from scratch. I didn't talk about my parents much. Thompson didn't force it. When I did mention them, it was factual, like reporting weather. My mom emailed again. What did she say? That she wants to talk. Do you want to talk to her? That's a barrier. She said it simply, like expressing my height or age. I learned boundaries weren't punishments. They were choices. Locks on doors only. I controlled. The first year with Claire, I checked the refrigerator every morning. Some habits die hard. Once I checked there was food, the knot in my chest loosened a little. I didn't tell Claire about that. I didn't have to. She appeared to understand anyhow. As I grew older, Mother offered me greater independence. Not because she wanted to step away, but because she trusted me to step forward. She showed up at basketball games, parent-teacher conferences, school ceremonies, always in the back row, never garnering notice. When I turned 14, letters from my mother started coming more often. Not handwritten, emails screened through attorneys, through CPS inquiries. Apologies that felt more like discussions. Attempts to rewrite context. I didn't answer. Not out of contempt, but because I didn't owe her a response. Thompson strengthened it. You're protecting yourself, Caleb. That's not cruelty. That's maturity. Claire never pressured me. She preserved every letter in a folder in case I wanted them eventually. I didn't. By 17, I'd established a life that didn't circle around the past. Good grades. Varsity basketball. A part-time work at a bike maintenance shop. Friends who didn't know my history unless I choose to tell them. Claire and I slipped into a kind of rhythm. Quiet dinners. Shared routines. Occasional disagreements that were settled with talk instead than fear. She wasn't trying to replace anyone. She was merely showing me what steadiness looked like. When I got admitted into a pre-law program on a full scholarship, Claire cried. I didn't. Not because I wasn't proud, but because my pride didn't need to burst out. To be real. A few months before I turned 19, a plain envelope came up in Claire's mailbox. The lettering on the front stopped me cold. My mother's. I didn't open it immediately away. I put it in my desk drawer next to the old tablet, the one I'd used to record everything. 2 pieces of proof from 2 versions of my existence. It took me weeks before I eventually opened the mail. She apologized, sort of. Explained her childhood. Explained her shortcomings. Said therapy was helping. Said she hoped one day I'd forgive her, but she understood if I didn't. I didn't feel rage reading it. I didn't feel moved either. It was like reading a letter addressed to someone else. I folded it back into the envelope and put it aside. Forgiveness wasn't something I required in order to move forward. Boundaries were, and I'd already built those. By the time I left for college, I wasn't running from my history. I was merely traveling toward a destiny that finally belonged to me. People ask me sometimes if I regretted speaking the truth, showing the footage, letting things fall the way it did. The answer is easy. I didn't destroy my family. My parents shattered the idea of family long before I even hit record. All I did was cease covering for them. If you grew up invisible, if you learned early that your comfort didn't matter, if you were instructed that silence makes you strong, hear this from someone who lived through it. Silence doesn't protect you. It protects the person's hurting you. You're permitted to speak. You're permitted to go away. You're permitted to protect yourself. Even from the folks who were expected to accomplish that job first. I survived those 5 weeks alone. I documented everything. I let the truth stand where I couldn't. And when the consequences arrived, when officers marched into my mother's lovely celebration and read her rights in front of 45 astonished guests, that wasn't revenge. That was reality finally catching up. Family isn't just blood, it's who turns up. Claire showed up. Whitaker showed up. Bennett showed up. Melissa showed up. The people who love you won't ask you to hunger for them. They won't ask you to hide the truth. They won't punish you for seeking aid. My parents left me just $30 and an inactive credit card. But I walked away with something they were never capable of giving me. Boundaries, clarity, a life I'm now permitted to call my own. If my story hit something familiar in you, if you recognized a piece of your own life in mine, then you already know the truth. You deserve better. You always did. If you want more stories about truth, survival, and the kind of strength most people never talk about, be sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. Check the description for the next video. Someone out there is living a tale that needs to be told. The Boundaries and Bloodlines team created this fiction purely for entertainment purposes. Do not duplicate or reproduce any behaviors detailed here under any circumstances. My parents stole $18,500, then sued me for family debt. I didn't cry. I sued back. When truth hit court, 52 messages exploded on my phone. I never imagined the divorce with my family would feel like being dumped by a boyfriend. It wasn't a big battle, a screaming match over Thanksgiving dinner, or a heated argument in the driveway. No, it arrived in the most anticlimactic way possible. A single message from my father that appeared on our group chat as I was brushing my teeth. You are out. We don't need you anymore. I laughed when I first saw it, as if it were a joke. He'd never sent anything like this before. The guy rarely texted me unless he asked me to transfer money to their account, or reminded me to pick up mom's cholesterol medication. I stared at the message, blinking, hoping for a response like lol, or just kidding, but it never arrived. Then my sister Hannah leaped in, as if she'd been waiting her entire life for this moment. Finally. That one struck a little harder. She and I were never close, but I had no idea she despised me. I had covered her rent twice, paid for her college textbooks, and even assisted her in purchasing a used car after hers was totaled. She had stated thank you once via SMS. The silence that followed lasted almost 3 seconds. Then I said, good timing. I just canceled your payments. And with that, I was done. I strolled into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat at the counter, watching the group chat on my phone light up like it was on fire. At 11:48 p.m., I received 52 fresh messages. I did not read them immediately away. I wanted to sit in silence for a little longer. It was the first time in years that I felt like I had any power in that family, because they had no idea that I had been holding their small world together for far longer than they wanted to admit. It began gently, as it always does. My mother, Margaret, had knee surgery 6 years ago and required someone to drive her to physical treatment 3 times per week. My father, Richard, was too preoccupied with work. My sister was in college and did not want to miss her weekend shifts, so I stepped up. Then there were the grocery deliveries, the insurance paperwork, and the time I left work in the middle of a meeting because Mom had forgotten her prescription and was too nervous to catch the bus. The first time I paid one of their bills, their water was turned off, and they didn't have time to get to the office. That developed into a habit. I somehow became the emergency fund, ride service, emotional support hotline, and unpaid helper all at once. But I've never said no. Not once. I kept reminding myself that's what family does. You do not keep score, until they do. When my father was promoted 6 weeks ago, everything changed. It was not a tiny bump. He was earning real money for the first time in years. I only found out when my aunt mentioned it at a cookout. That night I emailed him, "Congrats," and he replied with a thumbs up emoji. There's nothing more. Within a week the number of inquiries began to decrease. My mother canceled our monthly coffee. My sister has stopped responding to my check-ins. There will be no more, "Can you help us with?" or "Can you send?" Only radio silence. I suspected they were finally figuring things out on their own. It turned out they didn't need me anymore. That realization struck hard. The worst aspect was not the message itself. It was the casual way they tossed me, like if I were an old coat taking up space in the closet. No explanation, no thanks, simply, "You're out." I spent the rest of the night writing a list of every account, subscription, and recurring payment associated with me. Their phone plan in my name, my father's Spotify Premium, my mother's Kindle Unlimited, the Netflix account my sister used more than anybody else, all of them, one by one. I went into the bank app and canceled the monthly transfers I had been making to help with food and electricity. I logged onto the family calendar and deleted myself. I removed the group chat from my favorites, removed them from emergency contact lists, barred them from using my Uber account, and even changed the password to the Hulu account I knew they used on Sunday nights. I don't believe they knew how many invisible strings I was holding until I severed them. At 11:53 p.m., after cleaning out the previous account, I finally opened the messages. My mother's confusion had turned into panic. "What do you mean, canceled? What are the payments?" My father was trying to seem harsh. "We'll sort it out without you." My sister, always the source of unnecessary drama, wrote, "You're a selfish brat. I hope it was worthwhile." Then, of course, came the guilt card. "After everything we've done for you." Everything they'd done. I closed the app without responding. I slept better that night than I have in years. The morning after the messages, I awoke to an unsettling silence, as if something had been taken from the air. I brewed coffee, opened my phone, and glanced at the group conversation. 71 unread messages. I didn't open it immediately. I just let it sit there, buzzing sometimes like a dying fly on the windowsill. I knew what those texts would contain. Guilt trips, demands, and revisionist history. Eventually, curiosity triumphed. It started with my mother. "Are you really going to do this to your own family? I can't believe you are so ungrateful. We took care of you for many years." "Years, Lauren." Then it escalated to threats. "Return all you received from us. That car, the furnishings, the items we gave you when you moved out. And then finally, you are no longer welcome in this family." That was the one that did it. It left me feeling hollow rather than outraged. This is the type of message you would expect from a landlord, not your mother. "What about the car?" "I purchased it. Every single payment came from my account. The couch was a used brown couch that they gave me because their new one was on its way, and they didn't want to pay the haul fee. Everything they provided me was ludicrous. If we kept score, they owed me years in rent, rides, groceries, time off work, canceled vacations, late-night pharmaceutical trips, and weekends spent babysitting my sister's children so she could clear her mind. I never asked for anything back. I never asked for thanks. But they were correct in one respect. I was no longer a member of the family, so I made it official. First, the locks. I scheduled a locksmith appointment for that afternoon. He arrived an hour later. I didn't only replace the front door. I also changed the side door, the garage keypad, and the dumb little lock on the backyard shed. I collected every spare key they might have had access to. There was still one beneath a fake rock in the garden. I took it, threw it on the driveway, and smashed it with a hammer. Then I went digital, logging into every account I'd ever helped them with, including the Amazon Prime subscription I'd allowed them use and the online insurance portal for mom's medications that I'd set up using my email. I updated the passwords. Every streaming service is gone. Every automatic payment was halted. Their Uber account, which was still using my old credit card, was deactivated. The family calendar that I had kept for years, doctor's appointments, vet visits, birthdays, was wiped. It took roughly 2 hours to completely remove myself from their life. But I did not stop there. I unlocked the fireproof box in the closet containing all of my documentation, bank records and contracts, and picked out a folder titled Emergency. Inside was the phone number for Elliot, my lawyer. I hired him 3 years ago following a dispute with a freelancing client who attempted to defraud me of cash. I've kept him on retainer ever since. I told him everything, every transfer, account, and payment I'd paid in the previous 6 years. I inquired as to what they could claim. He told me to maintain a note of everything I had. I was the type of person who maintained receipts. This had always been the case. I didn't trust my memory. "You're covered," he said. But I'd keep an eye on them. And then something changed in me. I wasn't simply hurt anymore. I was alert. Because I knew them. I understood how their minds functioned. People who have felt entitled to you for a long time are unable to cope with rejection. They change the story. Suddenly, you're the villain. You owe them. You betrayed them. No matter what you've done for them. When you stop, they make it appear as if you have always been the problem. Sure enough, a few days later, my cousin texted me a screenshot of my mom's Facebook post. It was a hazy, deceptive little item with a pastel background and cursive writing. "Sometimes the child you sacrifice the most for is the one who turns their back when you need them most." There were numerous responses. "I'm sorry you are going through this, Margaret. Kids today are really selfish, you did your best. What happened?" She did not respond to that one. Of course not. She just said, "It's too hard to talk about. Please pray." She understood what she was doing. I did not make a comment. I did not message her. I did not correct the record. That part of me, the one that wanted to explain, defend, and prove my point, was gone. Allow them to tell their story. I had the receipts and the facts. For almost 2 weeks, everything was blissfully quiet. No texting or calling. Not from them, not from my sister. Not from the individuals who used to stop by and ask for favors because, "You're the only one who gets it, Lauren." I began to wonder if everything was truly finished. Of course it wasn't. Because if you cut off those who are used to bleeding you dry, they will not simply go on. They conspire. And one morning, I opened my closet, reached for an old book I used to keep cash in as a child, just in case of an emergency, and felt nothing. I flipped through the pages. Okay. I checked again and again. My hands became shaky. $18,500. Gone. That's when I realized they had been in my house. The incident occurred on a Thursday morning. The kind of morning that feels like nothing until it becomes everything. I had a flat tire the night before and chose to work from home. Around 11 a.m., I went into my closet and pulled out an old folder containing tax paperwork. The folder was hidden behind my teenage collection of Bronte novels and worn poetry anthologies, which I rarely examined. One book in particular stuck out. Wuthering Heights, hefty, hardbound and weighty with more than just paper. It wasn't actually a book. This was a vault. When I was 15, I hollowed it out and carved the center with an ancient X-Acto knife in my bedroom. It used to hold birthday cash and notes that I didn't want my sister to read. As I grew older, the practice persisted. Even after I opened a real savings account, I enjoyed having actual cash on hand, my just-in-case money. I built it up gradually over the years. When I received a freelance bonus or unexpected refund, I added to it. 30 here, 40 there. No one knew it existed, including my buddies. It's just me, and maybe my mother. She helped me unpack when I first moved into this place several years ago. She picked up the book, chuckled when it felt too light, flipped through it, and mentioned how cunning I used to be. I laughed with her. I did not think twice about it. You'll know it's bad when I open that book and it's empty. I checked it again, flipped over each page, and shook it. Nothing. Then I looked through the other books, the cabinets, and under the floorboards, where I had once hidden a birthday card. Every significant location has vanished. All of it. $18,500, gone. And not one lock was broken. No doors were forced. No windows had cracked. There are no traces of a break-in. I knew exactly what had happened. I knew it in the same way that you know a glass is going to fall before it touches the floor. They used the key. Not the front door key. I had changed all of them after they shut me off. But I had forgotten about the basement door. It had an old external lock that we rarely used, and I hadn't gotten around to upgrading it. I gave that key to my father when he came over 2 winters ago to look at a leak. I never asked for it back. They still held it. They allowed themselves in. Quiet. Clean and surgical. Straight to the hiding place. Inside and outside. That detail bothered me more than the missing money. They had not come to destroy anything. They did not steal my TV or laptop. They came for one thing only. Cash. They knew exactly where it was. I sat on the floor for a long time. Nor crying, nor wailing. Simply staring at the empty book as if it will change its mind and return it. Then I got up, manually shut the basement door, and called the police. They sent a patrol officer to take the report. He was empathetic but honest. Without surveillance or evidence of forcible entrance, it would be difficult to prosecute charges. I gave them names anyhow. I told them who I thought had done it, how they would have entered, and what they would have taken. When he went, I contacted my lawyer, Elliot. He came back the next morning, carried a notepad, asked questions, and appeared angrier than I did. Do you have records of all cash withdrawals and proof that the money existed and was in the house? I brought out the photograph. Years ago I took a photo of the hollowed-out book as a prank for a friend. It showed the stockpile halfway full, with the message, "My teenage paranoia paid off." That was sufficient for Elliot. He drafted a letter the same day, demanding repayment of stolen cash with a 7-day deadline, or we'd file for civil theft and seek restitution in court. The letter was direct, unemotional, and frigid, and it made me feel, for the first time in a long time, like I was wearing true armor. I mailed the letter using certified mail. Then I waited. 3 days later my sister ended the stillness. Not my parents, but my sister. She contacted me directly. Really? You're suing mom and dad? Are you out of your mind? They're having a tough time. You have money. What is the big deal? It was so nonchalant and contemptuous. As if it was only a misunderstanding. As if they were due the money. I did not respond. A few hours later, she followed up. You are being cruel. You know they wouldn't do it unless they were desperate. You're still a member of this family, whether you like it or not. I lingered at the last line for a long time. Still a member of this family. That's when I realized. To them, family didn't imply affection. It represented access. Access to favors, money, and me. And for the first time in my life, I knew they never considered me a daughter. They viewed me as a resource. And now, that resource was battling back. They were not about to let that go without a fight. And neither was I. On the 7th day after Elliot sent the demand letter, I received an email confirming that it had been received and signed for visibly. Still no reaction from them. There was no call, apology or explanation, just a tense quiet. I suspected they were stalling, trying to figure out what to do. Perhaps they were scurrying for money. Maybe they felt humiliated. But that illusion was destroyed 3 days later. I was preparing lunch when someone began beating on my front door. Not knocking, but banging. I didn't even have to look. I knew it was Hannah, my sister. She hadn't contacted me personally in weeks except for that one text, which was an attempt to guilt-trip me. Now she was outside my door, ranting like if we were on a reality show. Are you seriously doing this? Are you suing mom and dad? I stood behind the door out of sight. Let her yell. I wasn't giving her the gratification of a face-to-face confrontation. They are family, Lauren. You don't sue your own family. I did not respond. She continued going. Do you know why they did this? You know they wouldn't have done that unless it was absolutely necessary. I remained silent. Then she said the portion that explained everything I needed to know. They only took it because they knew you were hiding it from them. I stopped breathing. That was not a guess. That was a slip. She'd just admitted it. She attempted to backtrack, yelling something about being pushed too far and saying, "You've always been selfish." But I had already heard what I needed. She eventually left, yelling curses loudly enough for the neighbors to hear. I called Elliot immediately. We go forward, I said. He did not hesitate. Within 36 hours he filed the following wave of legal action, including civil theft, a demand for compensation, and legal fee reimbursement. This was no longer simply a warning shot. We were going inside. My parents eventually answered, but not with an apology. They confessed accepting the money through their attorney, but claimed it was not theft, but rather reimbursement. They claimed that the money I had in my home was a portion of long overdue familial debts. My father, Richard, stated that I had benefited financially and emotionally from decades of support, and it was appropriate for them to seek some of that back now that they were in need. My mother, Margaret, claimed that caring for me into adulthood imposed a financial strain on them that they were never reimbursed for. They pointed to old grocery bills, utilities from when I lived at home, and even wear and tear on their vehicle from years of trips and appointments. It was amusing, until they went further. They filed a countersuit. They sued me for unpaid support and services. They provided a spreadsheet of expenditures that they claimed I owed them. Some of it was completely made up, while others were warped beyond recognition. My sister even claimed personal suffering as a result of being exposed to the toxic behavior of a sibling. She requested compensation. I sat in Elliot's office, holding the documents as if it were from another world. "This is insane," I stated. He did not disagree. "It's strategic," he explained. "They are expecting you will panic, quit your lawsuit, and settle privately. This is about scaring you." However, the result was the opposite. I felt clear. They didn't simply steal from me. They sought to twist the truth and make me the bad guy. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized how often they'd done it previously. For example, when I stopped paying them monthly payments, they claimed I was withholding assistance. Or when I failed to drive my mother to her appointment with 2 hours' notice, and she informed the family that I had abandoned her. When I set a boundary, they termed it betrayal. And now they were attempting to bury me in paperwork and fraudulent claims. So I began prepping. I searched through my data and retrieved bank statements, screenshots, and old emails. I sorted through years of receipts, calendars, and cash transfers. I created a timeline. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening. People found out. My cousin contacted me, followed by my aunt and a woman with whom my mother used to play cards at the community center. My sister was unable to keep her mouth shut, therefore the story leaked. She had been whining to anyone who would listen, hoping to get sympathy. However, it was ineffective since the more people listened, the worse it sounded. They took what? Did they break into her house? Did they steal her savings? So now they're suing her? It was spreading gently but quickly, and my parents began to feel it. My aunt contacted me in tears, saying she had addressed my mother, and my mother had broken down, saying I was attempting to destroy the family, that I was twisting events to make them appear like monsters, but I didn't need to twist anything. They'd done everything on their own. Elliot contacted later in the week with more information. We demanded a forensic analysis of their finances, which revealed they were not struggling. Not even close. They had money in retirement accounts, a paid-off rental property, and many months' worth of savings remaining. They were not drowning. They were only upset that they didn't have access to mine. They didn't do this because they needed the money, Elliot told me. They did it because they felt entitled to it. He was correct. It was never about desperation. It was all about control. And now, with the truth coming out in public and the court date nearing, they were losing control of the situation. They were not going to let that happen quietly. And I had no idea how terrible things were about to get. The end did not happen in a courtroom. It came as murmurs, screenshots, and public humiliation. After my parents filed the countersuit, everything started to leak. I didn't tell anyone, but my sister couldn't stay quiet. She desperately needed validation. She told one cousin her version of events, claiming that I had gone insane and sued our own parents over a mistake. But then that cousin released the actual messages, and the explanation no longer fit. It spread like a wildfire. My father texted, "You're out. We don't need you anymore." My sister responded, "Finally." I replied, "Good timing. I just terminated your payments." The conversation ended up in our wider family group chat. From there, it spread to old family friends, neighbors, and even members of their church. Within days, my parents' flawless reputation was disintegrating in slow motion. My aunt contacted me first, her voice a mix of bewilderment and rage. "Is it true, Lauren? Did they take your money?" I did not refute it. I did not explain it either. I basically said, "There is a case pending. Everything will be revealed soon." The silence on the line told me plenty. She knew. By the end of the week, everyone was talking. Someone texted me a snapshot of my mother arguing with a woman near the fruit aisle at our local grocery store. The woman had questioned, Is it true that you stole from your daughter? My mother supposedly fell into tears and left the cart behind. It would have been sad if it had not been so predictable. They'd based their entire identity on being the nice family, the ones who hosted holidays, donated to church, and shared happy images every Sunday morning. Everyone understood it was an act. Elliot, my lawyer, was unrelenting. Each communication from him felt like progress. He discovered evidence that my parents weren't in financial problems at all. Multiple accounts, a rental property, and an investment fund. The claim that they required the money was a falsehood. They had not been desperate. They had been greedy. That aggravated me more than the theft itself. They may have sought for assistance. Even after everything, I'm not sure I said yes. However, they didn't. They just took. The hearing was planned for the following week, but before it began, their lawyer contacted them. He sounded tired and nearly defeated. He said that they wished to settle quietly. If I agreed to confidentiality, they would refund the entire cash as well as a portion of my legal fees. Elliot looked at me across the table. It's your call, he said. You've already won technically. This just determines how public it becomes. I did not even hesitate. No deal, I replied. We're finishing this properly, he said, hardly smiling. That's what I expected you to say. 5 days later, we received official notice. They were abandoning their countersuit, returning the entire $18,500, covering half fees, and delivering a written admitting of collecting the money without express consent. It was the legal equivalent of waving the white flag. They had not apologized. They had not even called. However, they had been compelled to admit the truth on paper, where it could not be distorted or changed. That was sufficient. Elliot and I signed the paperwork the following morning. As soon as it was filed, I transferred his fee and closed the folder that had been sitting on my kitchen counter for weeks. The lawsuit was finished. However, the repercussions was not limited because once the settlement was made public, the remainder of the tale leaked. People who had previously defended my parents stopped responding their calls. The neighbors stopped waving. Their pastor reportedly advised them to spend some time away from the congregation. In other words, they were discreetly banished. I did not celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. Only a tired quiet. A final hush that wasn't pleasant. 12 days later, the money was back in my account. I glanced at the figures, recalling how hard I had worked for every dollar. I should have felt relieved, but instead, I felt tired. That night my sister texted, "Are you happy now? You win." There is no apology or ownership, only contempt. I deleted the message and banned her number. Then I did the same with my parents. I changed my locks again and installed a video system. I wanted to be absolutely certain that they would never cross that threshold again. A week later, I received one final piece of news. Their rental property, which they had been using as a side income, had fallen through. When the tenants realized what they had done, they moved out. Apparently, they did not want to rent from the couple who had stolen from their own daughter. That's when I discovered that karma doesn't always come crashing down. Sometimes it simply dismantles people piece by piece, leaving them with precisely what they deserve: silence, shame, and each other. It should have felt better, but it didn't. Winning against one's own family does not feel like victory. It seems like severing a limb to halt the infection. When people ask me what I learned from it, I never tell them the entire tale. I simply argue that if your own parents are willing to take from you for money, you will never look at love the same way again. Because when the people who reared you demonstrate that they'd rather have your money than your trust, you begin to wonder if anyone, friends, lovers, anyone, is ever truly safe to allow in. It would have been simpler if they had simply vanished, faded into the background, learnt their lesson, sat in their humiliation, and moved on like regular people with a shred of dignity. But this is not how people like them behave. For a few weeks after the settlement, everything remained peaceful. No more messages, sightings, or foolish legal stunts. The money was returned to my account. Their names were banned on my phone. I'd installed new locks, a camera system, and ensured that no one else had any keys. It should have been over. But people like my parents aren't sure when to leave. It began with small things. A birthday card in the mail, unsigned. But I recognized the handwriting. The same sparkling script my mother used when she put messages in my lunchbox. An email to my work account from an unknown address with the subject line, "Are you happy now?" Then a cousin called to say she ran into my mother at the bank. Apparently my mother was still telling folks we were just going through a hard phase. That the entire situation was a misunderstanding that spiraled out of control. She hoped Lauren would eventually come to her senses and return home. Home. As if that place was ever safe. But the real breaking point occurred on a Sunday afternoon in late autumn. I'd just returned from a long hike, the air crisp and the leaves half dead on the trees. I turned onto my neighborhood and noticed a familiar car parked just past my driveway, a brown Honda with a dent in the back bumper and a slightly misaligned front license plate. My father's automobile. I froze in the middle of the street, sweat drying on my neck and hands still curled around my empty water bottle. My mother went out first, as if this was usual, as if she had simply happened to be in the neighborhood and wanted to say hello. She appeared older, thinner, and her hair was grayer than I remembered. She grinned as if nothing occurred. My father, Richard, remained in the driving seat. Of course he did. She began to move toward me slowly and cautiously, her hands folded in front of her as if she were making herself small and non-threatening. She came to a stop approximately 12 feet away, right beyond my property line. I did not speak. I did not blink. She mentioned my name once. I said nothing. Then she asked, "Can we talk?" Just talk. And that's when I realized something significant. They still believed there was a version of this in which they could be forgiven, in which I would allow them to explain, cry, and perhaps offer a wobbly apology before returning to playing home. They did not comprehend the distinction between hurt and done. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was finished. I turned and walked back the way I had come. I didn't say anything. Didn't even look back. I circled the street, came back around, and waited at the corner until I seen their car drive away. Later that night she left a voicemail. It was short. "We simply want to put things right. We had no idea how far this would go." She still didn't get it. It did not go anywhere. They took it there. They opened that door, crossed that line, emptied that book, and then had the audacity to pretend astonishment when I didn't roll over like I used to. I changed my number the next morning. That same day, I put my home on the market. 4 weeks later, it was sold. I moved to a new city, a new house, and new locks, leaving no sign of them. I made certain that even the mail forwarding did not mention their last name. I altered my emergency contact information, created a new will, and updated everything. A clean slate. They don't know where I live anymore. They never will. The hollowed-out book came with me, but it no longer contains money. It now keeps copies of everything. The lawsuit, the settlement, the email logs, and the texts. I keep it not because I am fearful, but because I have finished explaining. If anyone wants to rewrite this narrative, I have the original script. And people attempted to modify it. A old neighbor phoned me once and said she saw my mother crying on her porch, missing her kid. I asked if I could find it in my heart to speak with them again. I informed her I had decided in my heart to leave without looking back. That was the last time someone inquired. Funny thing is, folks like my parents rely on silence. They rely on the fact that most children won't discuss what transpires behind closed doors. That we will defend the image, swallow the pain, and enable them to carry the story because it is easier than ripping everything down. But they chose the wrong daughter for that. They exploited me for years, taking advantage of my money, time, guilt, and quiet. When I stopped contributing, they took. When I attempted to hold them accountable, they retaliated. Even when they lost, they came crawling back, not to make amends, but to reclaim control. The difference now is that I recognize who they are, and I understand who I am without them, stronger, calmer, sharper, quieter perhaps, but not silent. Because when individuals demonstrate how little your trust means to them, you stop communicating in their language. You communicate through closed doors, unlisted locations, changing numbers, and unreturned voicemails. And when they finally show up on your street, seeking to push that last barrier, you let them see your face one last time, just long enough for them to know the door they're banging on no longer leads somewhere they're welcome, and then you walk away permanently. The final major upgrade. I honestly thought that was it. New city, new home, new phone number. I changed everything. Nobody knew where I was. There are no common places and no public social media. I was finally free. Or so I thought. 8 months after I moved, a letter arrived in my mailbox. Not an email or a phone call, but a physical letter. Handwritten, with no return address. Just my first name on the envelope, spelled correctly in the exact way my mother always did. The soft "n" at the end, not the harder spelling everyone else used. I stared at it for a time. Did not open it immediately away. I didn't even touch it. I walked inside, placed it on the counter, and stared at it as if it would explode. Part of me wanted to burn it rather than read it, but curiosity won out. Inside there was only one page. No greeting or date, just this. We're selling the house. Things have changed. You should stop by before it is gone. You might want to watch it one last time. Some of your belongings are still here. I didn't need a name. It was them. What shocked me the most was not the attempt to reach out, but the tone. As if nothing had happened. As if we were still a regular family with loose ends to wrap up. As if breaking into my house, stealing from me, lying, suing me, and ambushing me outside hadn't been enough. I did not answer, but it went under my skin. Selling the house indicated that they were serious. Perhaps they were moving. Perhaps trying to downsize after the damage. Perhaps attempting to flee from it. I didn't care. I needed nothing from the place. But something about it bothered me. The thought of them packaging up what little evidence of me remained, and throwing it away like trash. So, I made a decision. I drove back one final time. Did not go to the house. I did not contact anyone. I parked a block away and walked by as if I were a stranger. Hood up, head down. It was vacant. The porch was unadorned. There's no furniture. No wind chimes. The curtains are gone. There is a for sale sign out front. The grass is dying and the paint is chipping at the windows. The place appeared hollowed out, as if it had aged 20 years and 8 months. And at that moment, I felt nothing. Not sadness, not nostalgia, but a strange, quiet contentment, as if witnessing a movie set being demolished after the final scene. They weren't home. The lights were off. The garage door was partially open. Inside, I noticed a few cardboard boxes placed against the wall. I continued walking. That night I composed my own letter, which contained only one sentence. There's nothing left for me to collect. I did not send it. Just wrapped it up, slipped it into the old hollow book, and sealed it shut forever. A few weeks later, I received word from someone distant. They'd moved out of state to a smaller town with no friends close and no remaining social links. My sister Hannah moved in with a guy she hardly knew and stopped responding their phone calls. Their world had now shrunk enough to match the size of their options. I started over. Truly, this time. I joined a running group, resumed freelancing, and found friends who didn't inquire about my family because I didn't bring it up. No more defending them. No more hoping for a change. Just living. One night I sat on my back porch, watching the sun set behind the trees. It was still calm. And then I realized something. The narrative did not finish when I shut them off. It ended when I gave up waiting for an apology. It ended when I no longer needed them to understand. And there was finally place for something else in that space where the anguish had previously existed. Peace. Not because they gave it to me, I built it myself. Nobody gets to steal that. Mom showed up with a tape measure to move me out of my own room, for my brother's future nursery. What my stepdad did next split the whole family. I, a 31-year-old male, purchased my home 3 years ago after pushing myself into the ground to save every penny. It's a simple 3-bedroom colonial in a peaceful neighborhood, but it's mine. My retreat is the master bedroom. I've set up half of it as my home office because I work remotely as a software engineer, and the NSU bathroom was a significant selling point when I was looking for a house. Logan, my younger brother, is 26 years old and married Chloe, 25, last month. They're lovely kids who have been together since college, and I was truly delighted to be his best man. They've been living in a tight studio apartment downtown while Chloe completes her nursing degree, and their lease expires this month. My mother, Linda, 56, called me 2 weeks ago with what she termed as excellent news. She informed me without asking that Logan and Chloe would be temporarily living with me while they saved for their own place. When I expressed amazement, she quickly dismissed my concerns. I've already thought everything through, she told me. They'll take the master bedroom since married couples need their privacy and proper space. You'll move into the guest room. It's perfectly adequate for a single man. The third bedroom will be their storage and future nursery when the time comes. I literally laughed, believing she was joking. She was not. Adam, this is what families do. Your brother needs help, and you have the space. Don't be selfish. I tried to emphasize that the master bedroom was not just where I slept. It was also my office, where I spent 9 to 11 hours each day. My system, which includes multiple monitors, a standing desk, and equipment, cannot fit in the guest room with a bed. You can work from the kitchen table like everyone else who works from home, she told me. Logan and Chloe need that space more than you need a fancy office setup. The conversation degenerated from there. I said that I pay the mortgage, insurance, and property taxes, everything. This was not about selfishness. It was about showing fundamental respect for my space and life. Her response was to mention my deceased father. Your father would be ashamed of how you're acting. He always put family first. When he was alive, He would never have let your brother struggle while you lived in luxury. That smacked like a blow in the gut. Logan was only 11 years old when my father died, and I was 17. Mom had sometimes weaponized his memories throughout the years, but this one felt especially nasty. Dad encouraged me to work hard, save money, and take pride in ownership. He would have understood why this scenario was bothering me. Logan contacted me that evening, and I heard Chloe in the background. "Look, Adam," he continued, sounding uneasy. "I told Mom we'd be fine in the guest room. Hell, we'd be grateful for the guest room, but she's insisting it wouldn't be appropriate for a married couple. What do you think?" I asked simply. There was a pause. "Honestly, I think this is weird as hell." Chloe's mortified. "We were actually looking at another apartment, but Mom said we'd be stupid to pay rent when you have space. She made it sound like you'd already agreed to everything." This is when things get more tricky. My mother married Michael, a 58-year-old man, 3 years ago. He's a great guy who owns a construction firm and is quiet and considerate. He has never sought to be a father figure or interfere with family dynamics. He was in Seattle on business at the time Mom was presenting this entire plan. Mom called yesterday to tell me that she, Michael, Logan and Chloe would be coming over this weekend to assist me move into the guest room. Exactly what she said. Michael agrees, this is the best solution for everyone. We'll make it as painless as possible. But here's what's fascinating. About an hour after that call, I received a text from Michael. "Adam, we need to talk. Man to man. Something's not right here and I'd like to understand the full situation before this weekend. Can you meet me for coffee tomorrow morning?" I agreed to meet him, but I am unsure what to anticipate. Michael has always been polite yet distant, which I appreciate. I didn't need or desire a replacement father, but this text shows he may see things differently than my mother did. The frustration goes beyond the bedroom issue. It's about a pattern that I'm only now fully understanding. Logan graduated from high school, and Mom gave him a great party. Logan had a baseball game, so she missed to come to my college graduation, which was the first in our family. When I was promoted to senior developer, she inquired whether my company was hiring because Logan wanted a better job. When I bought this house, her first reaction was that Logan would love to live somewhere like this one day. I don't resent my brother. None of it is his fault. If anything, I believe Mom's relentless protection has held him back. He's capable and intelligent, but she's constantly stepping in to solve his problems before he can sort things out for himself. The bedroom stuff feels like the pinnacle of this dynamic. Even in my own home, my accomplishment, my space, Logan's wants take precedence over mine. Being married appears to make him more deserving of comfort than me, the actual homeowner. My pals think I'm being a doormat by even considering letting them move in. My cousin, Mom's niece, says I'm overly dramatic. It's just a room and I should stop being so materialistic. My grandmother, Dad's mother, called me yesterday after Mom informed her of the issue, and her response was different. "Your mother's heart is in the right place, but she's wrong. Stand your ground, Adam. Your dad would be proud." Part of me wonders whether I should just give in and keep the peace. It would probably only last a few months. And is my pride truly worth causing a schism in my family? But another part of me, the one that sounds like my father's voice, suggests that this is about more than a bedroom. It's about determining whether I'm an equal adult in this family, or if I'll always be the older brother who must make sacrifices for the golden child. Michael and I are meeting tomorrow morning. I'm not sure what he wants to talk about, but I'm hopeful he can assist me resolve this dilemma. Perhaps he'll try to force me to comply. I honestly don't know him well enough to foresee what will happen. Is it terrible that I do not want to give up my master bedroom in my own house? Should family obligations supersede personal boundaries? What will I do if Michael sides with my mother? Update 1. We'll meet with Michael the next day. Michael and I met at 8 a.m. in a tiny cafe downtown. He was already there when I arrived, seated in a corner booth with 2 coffees ordered. He stood when he saw me, as my father used to do as a sign of respect, and shook my hand firmly. "Adam, thanks for meeting me," he said. "Before we discuss anything else, I need you to know that I had no idea about any of this until yesterday afternoon when I got back from Seattle. Your mother told me we were helping you move some furniture this weekend, but when I asked for details, the story didn't add up." He took out his phone and showed me texts from my mother. They portrayed an entirely different picture. That I had offered to assist Logan and Chloe. That I felt bad about having a large house while they struggled. And that I had offered the master bedroom because I wanted to do right by family. "Now," Michael said, leaning back. "I've only known you for 3 years, but you've never struck me as the martyring type. You're generous, yes, but not foolish. So I'm asking you directly. What actually happened?" I told him everything. The unexpected phone call, the demands, and the guilt trip about my father. Michael listened attentively, occasionally nodding or frowning. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. "Your mother means well," he replied. "But she has a blind spot when it comes to Logan. I noticed it during our first year of marriage but didn't feel it was my place to intervene. Now I realize staying silent was a mistake." He told me about observations he'd made, such as how Mom would interrupt my accomplishments to discuss Logan's potential, how she'd make excuses for Logan's mistakes while holding me to impossible standards, and how she'd always frame things as if I had advantages over Logan, despite the fact that I'm only 5 years older. When she told me about this bedroom situation, Michael went on. "She made it sound like it was all arranged, everyone was happy. But last night, I talked to Logan separately. Kid's embarrassed as hell. He never asked for the master bedroom, doesn't want it, and feels like your mother is treating him like a child." This surprised me. "Logan told you that?" "More or less," said the man. And I quote, "Michael, I'm 26 years old, married, and have a job. I don't need my mom fighting battles. I didn't ask her to fight. Chloe apparently wanted to get a different apartment specifically to avoid the situation, but your mother guilt-tripped them about wasting money." Michael ordered us breakfast and then went on. "Adam, I'm going to tell you something. I grew up with 3 brothers. My stepfather treated his biological sons like princes while I was lucky to get hand-me-downs. I swore if I ever became a step-parent, I'd never let that dynamic happen. Equal treatment, equal respect." "I appreciate that. But let me finish," he responded forcefully, yet politely. "I've failed in that promise. By staying silent while your mother favors Logan, I've been complicit. That stops now. Your father isn't here to stand up for you, and while I'd never try to replace him, someone needs to have your back. Consider me that someone." He devised a scheme. We'd go to my place together. He'd already invited Mom, Logan, and Chloe to join us there. He would back me in setting any boundaries I chose, but he advised me to be firm and also generous. They could stay, but only in the guest room, paying a fair amount of the utilities on a certain time frame. "Your mother will push back," he warned. "She'll cry. She'll guilt trip. She'll invoke your father again. Don't engage with the emotional manipulation. State your boundaries and hold them. I'll handle Linda if needed." We drove to my house individually. When we arrived, Mom was already there with Logan and Chloe. She had let herself in with her key and was measuring the guest room with a tape measure. "Oh, good, you're here," she remarked joyfully. "Adam, I think your desk can fit in here if we angle it." "Linda," Michael interrupted. "We need to have a family discussion, in the living room. Everyone." When we were all seated, Michael took over. "There's been a misunderstanding about the living arrangements. Adam, would you please clarify what you're willing to offer?" I took a deep breath. "Logan and Chloe, you're welcome to stay here for up to 4 months while you save for a house. You can have the guest room, share the main bathroom, and use the kitchen and common areas. I'll need $450 a month to cover the increase in utilities and incidentals. The master bedroom and my office setup stay as they are." Mom instantly began to complain. "That's ridiculous. You're going to charge your brother rent and stuff them in that tiny room." "It's not rent, Mom. It's utilities. And the guest room is larger than their current apartment. But married couples need." "Linda," Michael said forcefully. "Adam owns this house. He pays the mortgage. He's offering to help, and his terms are more than fair. This discussion is over." Mom looked at him in disbelief. "You're taking his side?" "I'm taking the side of what's right," Michael said calmly. "Adam isn't obligated to house anyone. The fact that he's willing to help at all should be appreciated, not criticized." Logan eventually spoke up. "Mom, stop please. Adam's offer is generous and we're grateful." "The guest room is fine, more than fine," Chloe explained. "Mrs. Linda, we appreciate you looking out for us, but this is between Adam and us. We're adults, and we can handle our own arrangements." Mom's face showed a range of emotions, including amazement, hurt, rage, and shame. "I'm just trying to help," she replied gently. "Your help isn't helpful when it comes at Adam's expense," Michael replied kindly but firmly. "You've been doing this for years, Linda. It needs to stop." There was an awkward silence. Mom then grabbed her purse and departed without saying anything more. Logan and Chloe apologized sincerely, assured me that they were satisfied with the guest room, and pledged to be excellent house guests. They departed shortly afterward to begin packing. Michael remained behind. "You did good," he said. "That was harder than it needed to be because it should have been addressed years ago, but you handled it well." "Thanks for backing me up," I said. I didn't expect that. Adam, can I share something? He asked as he sat down on my couch. Your mother talks about your father a lot. From what I've gathered, he was a good man who worked hard and loved his family. But she's created this mythology around him that she uses to justify her behavior. The man she describes, who would want you to sacrifice everything for Logan, doesn't match the father who taught you to work hard and earn your own way. He was correct, and hearing someone else agree was reassuring. I'm not trying to be your father, Michael added. But I am your stepfather, and that means something to me. It means having your back when you need it. Your mother will come around, but it might take time. Don't cave in the meantime. Update 2. Logan and Chloe finally moved in last weekend, after 2 weeks. They kept their word and were terrific house guests. They do grocery shopping, do their own dishes, and are quiet and considerate. Chloe even reorganized my disorganized pantry as a thank you gesture. The $450 for utilities was paid beforehand, without my asking. Mom refused to assist them move and has ignored me since the fight. She isn't actively antagonistic, just absent. She did not call for our regular Sunday check-in. She did not text me the recipe I requested for. It hurts, but I'm standing firm. Michael, on the other hand, has become increasingly present. He invited me for lunch twice this week, just the two of us. The first time we discussed work and sports, we were careful to ignore the elephant in the room. He brought it up again. Your mother is struggling, he remarked simply. She's realizing that her way of showing love to Logan has actually been harmful to both of you. To him, because it stunted his independence, and to you, because it made you feel less valued. Has she said that? Not in so many words, but she's been reading articles about favoritism in families. I saw her browser history. She's not subtle. She's also been looking at photo albums from when you boys were young. I think she's seeing patterns she didn't want to see before. He then told me something that clarified a lot. Did you know that after your father died your mother went to therapy for about 6 months? The therapist told her that Logan might struggle more with the loss because he was so young and that she should pay special attention to his emotional needs. I think she took that advice and ran too far with it, turning pay attention into prioritize above everything else. This was new to me. Mom hadn't mentioned therapy. She also told me, Michael went on, that you stepped up so much after your father died. Took on responsibilities, helped with Logan, never complained. She said she leaned on you heavily, maybe too heavily for a 17-year-old. I think part of her favoritism toward Logan stems from guilt about parentifying you. That was unexpectedly challenging. I remember cooking Logan's school lunches, assisting with schoolwork, and attending his little league games when Mom had to work late. I believed I was being a decent brother. I had no idea Mom would have considered it a burden I shouldn't have carried. That doesn't excuse her behavior, Michael clarified swiftly. But it might help you understand it. Yesterday something interesting occurred. Logan asked if we could speak quietly. We sat on my back porch with beers, and he seemed unusually serious. Adam, I owe you an apology, he said. Not just for this situation but for everything. 4 years of everything. I attempted to dismiss it but he persisted. No, listen. I've been thinking a lot since this whole bedroom thing happened. Mom's always fought my battles, made excuses for me, cleared the path ahead of me, and I let her because it was easy, but it wasn't fair to you. He told me about things I had forgotten or even blocked out. Mom would take money from my education fund to pay for his car repairs. There were times when his little victories eclipsed my family's appreciation of my achievements. He knew Mom was being unjust, but he didn't say anything because it benefited him. I'm not a kid anymore, he explained. I'm married. I have a job. I'm about to buy a house. It's time I stood on my own feet and stopped letting Mom treat me like a baby. And you I don't know, like the help. You're not responsible for how Mom acts, I told him. No, but I'm responsible for how I respond to it. And I've responded by taking advantage, even if I didn't mean to. That stops now. He next shared a surprise with me. Michael has been talking to me too, about being a man, about independence, about fair family dynamics. He said something that stuck. Your brother's success doesn't diminish yours, and your needs don't matter more than his. He's right. We're not in competition, and Mom needs to stop acting like we are. Update 3. 1 month later, the transformation has been amazing. Last week Mom broke her silence by calling to ask if we could all eat supper together. Michael later informed me that she had resumed consulting with a therapist, this time focusing on her parenting practices and grief processing. The supper was held at my residence. Mom brought dessert, my favorite, Not Logan's, which, while modest, felt substantial. After we had eaten, she asked if we could talk. "I owe you both an apology," she said, glancing at Logan and me. "But especially you, Adam. I've been unfair to you for years, and I disguised it as love for your brother." She discussed Dad's loss, her concerns that Logan would grow up damaged without a father, and how I appeared so strong and capable that she forgot I was also hurting. "You became my partner in raising Logan," she told me with tears in her eyes. "That wasn't fair. You were a child who lost his father, not a replacement parent. And then I spent years compensating Logan for a loss that you experienced too, as if your pain mattered less because you were older." Logan spoke up. "Mom, you need to stop protecting me. It's actually made my life harder. I never learned to solve my own problems because you always jumped in. Adam had to figure everything out himself. And look where he is. Successful, independent, a homeowner. I'm just now learning skills he mastered years ago because he had to." Mom nodded and wiped her eyes. "The bedroom thing. God, I'm mortified. Demanding you give up your room in your own house. What was I thinking?" "You were thinking what you've always thought," I said gently. "That Logan's needs come first. It's been the pattern so long, you didn't even question it. Michael said, 'Linda, you're a good mother who loves her sons, but love isn't only about giving one everything and expecting the other to sacrifice. It's about respecting both sons as individuals with equal value.'" Mom turned to me and asked, "Can you forgive me? Not just for the bedroom event, but for the entire situation." "I'm working on it," I admitted honestly. "It helps that you see it now. But Mom, this cannot be just words. Things need to change." Rather than utilizing her key, she appreciates my accomplishments without instantly shifting to Logan, and she no longer compares us or suggests I do more for him. She has kept her promise and now asks before visiting. Update 4. Logan and Chloe discovered their house 3 months later. They'll close in 4 weeks and move out by the end of the month. It's a cute starting home approximately 20 minutes away. Mom volunteered to help them decorate, but, and this is huge, she offered the same to me for my house, recognizing that I'd been living with bachelor decor for far too long. Over the last 3 months, Michael and I have built a genuine friendship. We go to baseball games together, he teaches me carpentry in his garage workshop, and we have open chats about life, work, and family. Last week, while working on a bookshelf project, he said something significant. "You know, Adam, I think I understand your father better now, even though I've never met him. I see him in your work. Methodical, cautious, and taking delight in doing things correctly. I see him in how you treat others with respect while expecting the same in return. Your mother kept him alive via stories, but you have kept him alive through your actions." "I miss him," I confessed, startling myself with vulnerability. "Of course you do. You always will. But Adam, I want you to know that I am not attempting to replace Dad. I'm simply trying to be another person in your corner. Everyone deserves to have someone in their corner." He then told his personal tale of losing his father at a young age and how his stepfather regarded him as inferior to his biological boys, saying, "I promised myself I'd never repeat that cycle. Biology does not determine worth. You and Logan are my stepsons, and I am proud of both of you." The big test came last weekend, when my cousin got engaged and the family gathered to celebrate. Previously, Mom would dominate the conversation with Logan's successes while scarcely mentioning me, but this time was different. When my aunt asked what was new with the boys, Mom shared equally, Logan's upcoming house closing and my recent promotion to team lead. When my grandmother complimented my house, Mom didn't immediately mention how Logan's would be nicer. When my uncle made a joke about me being the responsible one, Mom didn't laugh along. She said both of her sons were responsible in different ways. Small yet important adjustments. Final update. Logan and Chloe moved out 2 weeks ago after 4 months, and their housewarming party last night was lovely. Not because of the house, but because of what it symbolized. During the party, Logan grabbed me aside and said, "Adam, I need to thank you. Not only for allowing us to stay with you, but for standing up to Mom. It caused all of us, including myself, to grow up. I'm 26, married, and about to buy a house, yet Mom was still treating me like I was a child in need of protection. Your boundaries have also set me free." Mom overheard and joined us. "He's correct. I was holding both of you back. Logan by overprotecting him, and you by undervaluing yourself. I'm glad you forced the talk, even if it was difficult. The party was the first time I felt like an equal member of the family, rather than the responsible older brother who was expected to sacrifice and stay quiet. Mom proudly introduced me to her friends, talking about my career and my house without immediately shifting to Logan, and even pulled out her phone to show pictures of the home office setup she had once deemed unnecessary. But the most memorable moment came from Michael, who pulled me aside near the end of the evening. "Adam, I've been thinking about something," he began. "Father's Day is approaching. I realize it's undoubtedly a difficult day for you. It has been since you were 17. I am not your father, and I would never pretend to be. But I was wondering what we could do together that day. Not as father and son, but as family. Men who respect and support one another." I agreed, and we made preparations to go fishing, as Dad used to do with me. "Your father raised a good man," Michael murmured, clasping my shoulder. "And I see it every day. The way you handled the entire matter with strength and grace was a reflection of both his and your character. You adopted his teachings and made them your own. I've reclaimed my position in the family, not as the perpetual giver or the responsible one who needs nothing, but as an equal deserving of respect and consideration. My house is peaceful again, my office is set up exactly as I need it, and the guest room is back to being a guest room." Mom still slips into old patterns, but she stops herself. Last week she started to tell me I should help Logan with his mortgage papers, then stopped mid-sentence. "No, that's not my place. Logan can ask you for aid if he needs it, and you can decline if you're too busy." Logan did ask. And I helped, not because Mom told me to, or because I felt obligated, but because he was my brother and asked respectfully. That's the difference. The help comes from choice, not expectation or guilt. Michael has become an unexpected blessing in my life, not a father, but something else valuable, a mentor, a friend, and an advocate. He's shown me that family can grow and evolve, and that step relationships don't have to be awkward or distant. He chose to stand up for me when he could have stayed neutral, and that decision made all the difference. Last night, after the party, I was cleaning up my kitchen when I discovered a note Michael had left on my counter. "Adam, your father would be pleased of the man you have become. I know I am. Mike." I saved the note, and it now rests in my office next to a photo of Dad and me from when I was 16, just a year before he died. Two different men, two different relationships. But both are part of my life. The master bedroom crisis, as dramatic as it appeared at the time, was actually a gift. It forced our family to confront years of unhealthy dynamics, revealing that Mom's grief had morphed into favoritism. Logan was ready to be independent but hadn't been allowed to be, and I deserved equal consideration in my own family. Most importantly, it taught me that standing up for yourself is not selfish, but rather necessary. That boundaries are guidelines for healthy relationships. And that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to refuse to allow dysfunctional patterns to continue. My home is mine, my space is respected, my accomplishments are honored, and my needs are important. These should not be revolutionary ideas, but they were for me, and it required a stepfather's courage to show me that I deserved nothing less. Mom was correct when she said that family helps family. However, true help does not imply that one person constantly makes sacrifices for another. Rather, it entails reciprocal respect, admiration, and support that flows in both directions. That is the family we are currently forming, and I am grateful for where we have arrived, despite the difficult journey we have taken. The master bedroom is still mine, but I've gained something far more valuable. A family that sees, respects, and values me as an equal, as well as a stepfather who stepped up and said, "This is wrong, and I won't let it continue." Sometimes the best families are the ones that grow through disagreement, learn from mistakes, and choose to do better. We're not perfect, but we're trying, and that's enough. At my sister's birthday dinner she laughed. "Still single?" I smiled back, opened my banking app, and said, "No one's paying your rent anymore." My name is Claire Bennett, and I'm 32 years old. I've always loathed family gatherings, not because I despise my family, though to be honest, like is a nice word, but because those dinners have a way of exposing the thin shell of civility we all claim to have. They convert civility into performance, and tenderness into ammunition. And tonight, at my cousin Olivia's birthday dinner, that performance was already unraveling before I sat down. The restaurant was dim and sophisticated, with candles flickering in small glass containers and forks sounding louder than music. Every table was packed with people laughing, toasting, and clinking wine glasses. Meanwhile, our table resembled a stage, set for the next act of turmoil. My parents, Margaret and Thomas, were already there, smiling too wide and pretending everything was okay. Olivia stood at the head of the table, doing her best to keep the peace, but her eyes flickered uncomfortably to my sister, Vanessa. Vanessa, of course, was enjoying the attention. Excellent hair, excellent smile, and perfect illusion. I recognized that look, her version of confidence. Underneath it was desperation, the kind that thrives on being noticed, even if it means causing someone else to bleed. "Claire, over here," my mother called as I stepped in. "Sit next to your sister." Of course. Why not make me the emotional target before the appetizers arrive? I took a seat, smiled pleasantly, and reached for the menu. I promised myself that I would get through the evening peacefully. Smile, nod, pay my portion, and head home. That was the plan. But Vanessa had different intentions. She reclined back in her chair, crossed her legs with the languid confidence that only freeloaders appear to possess. She smirked loudly enough to be heard by half the table. "Are you still single, see? Guess no one wants to date a control freak." The table fell silent for a half-second before my parents laughed. Dad shook his head, as if he'd just heard the punchline to a harmless joke. "Vanessa, behave," he murmured. But his smile remained. My cheeks burned. Not from humiliation, but from the steady, familiar rage I'd spent years learning to tolerate. I forced a smile. "You're right," I murmured gently, tilting my head. "No one wants to date a control freak." After a brief pause I added, "Just like no one wants to pay your rent." Her smirk faded. "What?" she remarked, half joking. I leaned in, smiling. "Oh, that's correct. It comes from me." For a moment, no one spoke. The air appeared to tighten around the table. Mom froze mid-sip. Dad's hand remained motionless on his drink. Even Olivia looked up, her eyes wild. I retrieved my phone from my purse and unlocked it with a quiet click. "Actually," I said, "it used to come from me." After a few simple touches, I launched my banking app. One swipe, 2 taps, and the rent transfer is gone. After a couple more swipes, the utility card paused. "Done," I stated simply, placing the phone face down next my plate. The stillness that ensued was not unpleasant. It was beautiful. Vanessa's face had lost its color. "You're not serious," she replied, her voice quivering slightly. "Oh, I am. See, this is not funny. I am not laughing." Dad cleared his throat. "Claire, this isn't the time or place." "No," I replied gently. "It's the exact time and location." You all laughed as she mocked me. You all turned away as she took advantage of me. But now that I've stopped paying, it's suddenly inappropriate. Vanessa pushed her chair back, her expression tight. "You are overreacting. It's only a joke." So was my financial stability apparently. She looked to Mom for support, but Mom was staring at her wine glass, lips pressed tightly. Dad was about to reprimand me, but even he couldn't find the correct words. I sat back, relaxed and almost distant. "You have been taunting me for being alone, Vanessa. But let me remind you that without me, you wouldn't have anywhere to mock me from." The sound of her chair slapping the floor relieved the tension. She up abruptly, muttering, "You're insane," and stormed out to the bathroom. Olivia's hand touched mine beneath the table. "Are you okay?" she whispered. I nodded. "Better than I've been in years." The conversation then stalled and became disjointed. My parents tried to pretend the incident had not occurred, asking Olivia about her new work and trip plans. But I could see their eyes flickering toward me every few minutes, like if they were waiting for me to backtrack and apologize. I did not. When dessert arrived, Vanessa's place was vacant. I was not surprised. As I took my first mouthful of tiramisu, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Serenity. The kind that is neither loud nor triumphant. Just silent. Mom let out a sigh across the table. "You really didn't have to make a scene, Claire," I said quietly. "I did not cause a scene. I ended one." Dad's jaws tightened. "Family takes care of family." "Then take care of her," I replied softly, placing my fork down. "Because I'm done." He did not answer. He simply glanced aside as he always does when the truth contradicts the version of family he prefers to believe in. By the time I left, the night air outdoors felt crisper and lighter, as if the world had softly changed. I walked to my car, got in, and sat for a moment. Hands on the steering wheel, heart steady. I reflected on every time I'd paid her rent, paid her bills, bought her groceries, let her mock me, and remained silent to keep the peace. And I thought about that moment tonight, when her laughing died, my voice remained steady, and I finally selected myself. If you want to know why that single statement landed like a grenade, you must first understand its context. Because this did not start on Olivia's birthday. This all started when I decided to help my sister get back on her feet. Translation. The day I acquired her personal bank account. It began 3 years ago, the same week when Vanessa's life imploded. Or so she claims. Her boyfriend had broken up with her. She had quit her job because the management was poisonous, and she had nowhere to go. That's what she said, standing at my apartment door, eyes red, clutching a supermarket bag containing perhaps 2 changes of clothes and a dying houseplant. I remember her saying, "See, I only need a little help. Just for 1 month until I figure things out." Rain fell behind her, drenching her inexpensive flats. I could have said no. I should have said no, but guilt is a language my family speaks fluently, and I've been proficient since I was a youngster. So I opened the door. She walked in, set down her luggage and breathed as if she'd just arrived to a spa. "You're a lifesaver," she said, glancing around my modest apartment. "It's as immaculate as a hotel. Do you actually live here, or do you just work and clean?" I smiled weakly. "I live here, and I work so that I can keep it that way." Vanessa smiled, but her gaze was immediately fixed on the kitchen, the coffee maker, the wine rack, and the framed images. I could almost see her figuring out what she could borrow first. Within a few days, she'd settled in. My couch became her bed, my groceries her food, and my Wi-Fi her Netflix subscription. "I'll get you back when I start working again," she'd tell you. When, not if. That word had me hooked. The first month, I paid her deposit on a modest apartment nearby. She promised she'd take over once her new work started. Then the job fell through, followed by another. She then announced that she will be freelancing. That's how it started, with a little help. Then my folks called me. "Sweetheart, she has had such a difficult time. You have a stable employment. You can afford to support your sister. Family looks after the family. Claire, you are lucky not to have children. You wouldn't understand what true stress is." And I began paying her rent on a monthly basis, followed by utilities and her phone bill, as part of the job search process. When I hesitated, my mother sighed. "She is your sister. Don't be petty." And with that, my bank account became our family's collective safety net. Months merged into one another. I barely noticed how frequently my phone rang with rent reminders, or how my utility bill gradually increased. Until one day, I looked closer. Electricity has been doubled, the internet has been updated to ultramax gaming speed, and I can now watch Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, HBO, and Amazon Prime under my name. A single line item stuck out. $450, VIP table. I gazed at the charge for a minute before phoning her. "Hey, see." Vanessa's voice was bright, false, and cheery. "Is everything okay?" "What is a VIP table?" A pause. "Oh, that's my landlord's payment system." "His name is VIP table?" "Don't be judgmental. It's only... You wouldn't get it." I hung up. Not because I lacked words, but because no one was nice enough to speak them. However, I did not cancel the card. I convinced myself it was easier to keep the peace, to simply pay and move on. That's the issue about guilt. It does not urge you to adore someone, but rather to make modest sacrifices until you lose sight of your own boundaries. The emotional barbs were next. Every family gathering became a comic roast, and I was the joke. "Be careful," Vanessa would say, "because C might send you an invoice." Mom would laugh. Dad shook his head. I'd sit there smiling firmly, pretending it didn't hurt. But it did. Then one afternoon, an email appeared. Subject: Notice, late rent payment. Tenant, Vanessa Bennett. It came from her building manager and addressed to me. I reread it 3 times. My name was placed as a secondary contact. My heart fell. I called her immediately. "Why am I receiving rent notices for you?" "It's a mistake," she replied hastily. "I already paid." "Really?" "Because my account says that the transfer went through and then went back out to someone named Logan Reese," she yelled. "Don't be classist." "No, Vanessa, that is not classism. That is theft." She hung up. That Sunday, I printed the email and took it to lunch at my parents' home. When everyone had sat down, I placed it in the center of the table, like evidence in a trial. "What is this?" Dad inquired, frowning. "Proof that Vanessa isn't paying her rent, even though I am." Mom pursed her lips. "Claire, why are you humiliating your sister like this?" "Humiliate her? She is 1 step away from eviction." Vanessa walked in mid-sentence, wearing the fashionable jacket I had gotten her for Christmas last year. She froze, noticed the paper and smirked. "Are you seriously turning family into a courtroom?" I tightened my jaw. "You've been lying to me." She rolled her eyes. You're just bitter because you're single and have nothing better to spend your money on. The dining room was quiet. Something inside me, little and tired, finally snapped. You've got 3 weeks, I said. After that, I'm finished. Rent, utilities, everything. They all stared as if I had hit her. Mom gave a gasp. Claire, you can't just abandon her. Dad scowled. Vanessa scoffed. She's doing her best. You will cave. You usually do. I did not argue. I simply stood, got my belongings, and departed. That night my phone exploded with messages. Mom's guilt trips, Dad's lectures on loyalty, and Vanessa's impassioned voice notes about being deceived. I did not respond to any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop and began unlinking everything. Rent accounts, pooled cards, and Amazon login. I froze my credit, discontinued automatic transactions, and changed my password. It felt both harsh and necessary. For the first time, I was prepared not to save anyone. By the time Olivia's birthday invitation arrived a week later, I had already decided what I would do. I'd show there, be quiet, and let the night play out. If Vanessa crossed the line again, I would finish what I had started. And she did. The instant she mocked me at that restaurant, with that smug, thoughtless laugh, I knew it was the end. By dessert, I was no longer her savior. I was her lesson. When the truth is ultimately revealed, a peculiar type of hush falls over the house. Not the soothing type, but the heavy one that hums beneath your skin. That's how my parents' dining room felt the next Sunday. The table was already set with pot roast and mashed potatoes, the usual comfort foods. Except this time, no one appeared at ease. I carried something with me. A folded piece of paper that I had printed the night before. The late rent notice. Vanessa arrived late, of course. She always was. Mom gave me that tight smile she saves for family concerns that should remain secret. Claire, she greeted gently. Let's not ruin lunch. Sure, I replied. Then maybe your other daughter should stop using me like a credit card. Dad sighed profoundly, as if breathing had already exhausted him. You're being dramatic again. I slid the folded letter across the table, stopping in front of him. Read it. He paused before opening it. As his gaze perused the paper, his frown intensified. Mom cast a glance over. What is that? A notice, I said. This is from Vanessa's landlord. She's delinquent on rent again, even though I transferred the funds. Mom's eyes furrowed. Claire, we don't need to air every detail of your finances. Mom, it's not about finances. It's about falsehoods. Suddenly, the door opened. Vanessa strolled in, sunglasses perched on her head and a casual jacket flung over one shoulder, the same luxury jacket I had purchased her for Christmas last year. Sorry, traffic was a nightmare, she said, rushing in as if nothing was wrong. When she noticed the note on the table, her smile faded. What is this? She inquired. I didn't respond. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister says you're behind on your rent. Vanessa's gaze shifted from him to me. Then she laughed, light, airy, and phony. Oh, that? It's a clerical error. Claire is being paranoid again. Then explain why my transfer went through and disappeared into someone named Logan Reese's account, I replied with a firm voice. Her smile froze. Wow, you actually checked all of that. Creepy, huh? You can call it anything you want, but I'm tired of paying for your mistakes. Vanessa scoffed. Oh, please. You believe you're so great since you have a small job and a clean flat. Claire, you're miserable. Everyone knows it, my mother hissed. Girl, stop. But I had already stopped. At the very least, I pay for my own life. Vanessa leaned forward. You're just jealous. Of what? I asked gently. Do you have any unpaid bills? Your phony luxury lifestyle? Her face turned crimson. You're just bitter because you're single and have nothing better to do than control everyone else. The remarks hit me more than I expected, not because they were true, but because I recognized how many times she had exploited my vulnerabilities against me. She always knew exactly where to stab. Dad slapped his hand upon the table. Enough. Everyone halted for a second. Then, in the deep hush that followed, I found my voice. Calm and final. You've got 3 weeks, I told her, gazing directly at her. After that I'm finished. Rent, utilities, phone bills, all of it. The room became still. Even the clock on the wall appeared to pause. Mom's voice was little, but piercing. Claire. You can't just abandon your sister like that. I caught her gaze. She is 36, Mom. I am not abandoning her. I'm setting her free. Vanessa laughed without humor. You will cave. You always do. But I didn't respond. Got my belongings, and walked out. I did not cry. I did not even feel angry. Just finished. That night my phone became a combat zone. Mom sent guilt-inducing messages. You are breaking your father's heart. She's your sister. What if something happened to her? Dad left a voicemail that began calmly and concluded with disappointment. If your grandmother saw this lack of loyalty, she'd be ashamed. Vanessa swung between wrath and desperation. I do not need your money. Actually, they are charging me a late fee. Can you spot $350? You are evil. Seriously, you are actually evil. I did not respond to any of it. Instead, I opened my laptop and began removing the last strands that held us together financially. I deleted her name from joint subscriptions, changed passwords, froze my credit, and enabled alerts on all accounts. Each click felt like ripping a needle from my skin. For the first time, I could breathe. The next few days were unusually quiet. I awoke to no messages, no urgent transfers, and no requests disguised as favors. My mornings were mine again. But guilt is patient. By the end of the week, it began whispering. Perhaps I overreacted. Perhaps I should give her another chance. Then one morning, as I was scrolling through my emails, I noticed a new message. The subject line said, Family Strategy Dinner. It was from Dad. A meeting agenda was included. I'm not kidding. There is an actual agenda. Discuss Vanessa's rental issue. The current bridge plan provides 60-day coverage. Family expectations as we move on. I stared at it for a long time, half amused and half fatigued. My family assumed this was a business negotiation. I responded with a single line. I'll come, but I'm not bringing my checkbook. That dinner would alter everything. However, there was a period of quiet prior to the storm. Olivia texted me in the evening. I heard about Sunday. I am proud of you. She needed to hear that. I smiled at the screen, experiencing a rare sense of affirmation. Then her next message arrived. But take care. People like Vanessa dislike losing their favorite sponsor. I didn't understand how accurate that warning was until the next week, when the retaliation began. False emergencies, guilt calls, and attempted fraud. My sister wasn't simply broke now. She was desperate. When I cut off Vanessa, I anticipated turmoil. I didn't expect the campaign. It began gently. My mother sent a few group texts labeled Family Emergency. The first said, We all need to unite around Vanessa at this terrible time. Then another, this time from my father. Claire has decided to cut your sister off without notice. We need to talk about this as a family. Aunt Diane chimed in. Why did Claire pay her payments in the first place? For once, the silence that followed did not make me nervous. It made me smile. Vanessa called that Monday morning. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the tone she employed when she desired something. Hey C, I'm trying to set up autopay for next month's rent, but my card isn't working. Did the bank stop it? I reclined back in my chair at work. No Van, I did. She chuckled as if I had told a joke. You're kidding. Nope. The line became quieter, then sharper. You can't do that. I already did. Do you think cutting me off makes you a hero? You'll regret it when no one is there to assist you. I smiled slightly. Maybe. But you'll regret not learning to help yourself. She hung up. That was day 1. On day 3 she attempted emotional warfare, long voice messages, tears coupled with manipulation. You aren't simply my sister. You are my best friend. I cannot believe you would do this to me. I am literally suffering panic attacks as a result of this. You've always had to feel superior. Admit it. I didn't respond. Mom then began to make guilt calls. Honey, your sister broke down last night. She isn't built like you. She is sensitive. So am I replied frankly. I just stopped paying for it. By Thursday, the tone had changed from pleading to wrath. I received a fraud alert on my phone for an attempted add-on to the halted utility card. 15 minutes later, another notification, fresh credit application refused. She had attempted to obtain a credit line in my name. I blocked her phone number, reported the attempt, and entirely shut down the shared account. The calm that followed felt almost hallowed. But peace does not stay long in my household. Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I hadn't recognized it until I heard the voice. This is Richard, your sister's property manager. You are listed as a secondary contact on her lease. I massaged my temples. I'm not a guarantor. I understand, ma'am, but the rent is overdue. If payment is not received by 5 p.m., we will send a pay or quit notice. Then do your job, I replied. And remove my email from your system. A pause followed by a courteous, almost pleased giggle. Will do. Have a nice day, Miss Bennett. Click. One rope was cut cleanly. That evening I made myself a cup of tea, sat on my balcony, and watched the sunset. The city felt different. It was calmer and more free. For years I had been living in a continual state of tension, waiting for the next emergency. And suddenly there was nothing. Just me, my stillness, and the peace that money cannot buy. However, family debt does not disappear immediately. My phone lit up again about 8:30 p.m. This time, Mom. I almost ignored it, but something inside me wanted to know how guilt sounded tonight. Claire, your sister is experiencing a panic attack. She claims she can't breathe. She'll be fine. She's not like you. No, I replied softly. She's not. I hung up. By the next morning, the storm had hit full force. Vanessa arrived at my flat door, eyes wide, holding a folded eviction notice in her palm. You did it, she exclaimed. They request $1,500 by 5 o'clock. What should I do? Sell the jacket, I replied. Sell your watch. Call your clubmates. You will figure it out. I'm not pawning my life, Claire. You've been pawning mine for 3 years, I replied, closing the door. She hammered on it once more before leaving. I looked through the peephole as she stormed down the hall, the eviction notice crumpled in her fist. My phone buzzed again around 15 minutes later. This time, Mom sent a long SMS. If she's evicted, that's on your conscience. I responded back. If she's evicted, it's on her lease. I then turned off the group conversation immediately. That afternoon, another email appeared. Family strategy dinner, Sunday at 7. Of course, attendance was mandatory. My father valued order. He presumably had a PowerPoint prepared. But for the first time, I felt no dread. I felt prepared since boundaries are meaningless if you just draw them in secret. Sometimes you have to defend them in front of the individuals who taught you how to delete them. When I came on Sunday, Dad had printed up agenda cards. Mom sat with a carefully bland expression. Vanessa appeared shattered, with swollen eyes and shaky hands but still wearing mascara. Guilt as performance art. Dad cleared his throat. We've come up with a simple bridge plan. I smiled slightly. Of course you have. Just 60 days, he said. You pay the rent while Vanessa is transitioning. She'll handle the utilities. Mom chimed in gently. Be reasonable, sweetheart. You know she's had a difficult time. For 3 years, I've been reasonable, I murmured gently, sliding my phone across the table. Look at the transaction logs, charges, screenshots, and months of proof. Club fees, online purchases, and streaming upgrades. $450 for a VIP table, I explained. That is not survival. That is entitlement. Vanessa's voice crackled. Why are you doing this? Because you never stopped, I answered. Olivia, sitting to the side, eventually spoke up. Perhaps Vanessa should sell some of her belongings. That gaming PC and that jacket. I'm not selling my watch, Vanessa yelled. Then you're not serious, I said. Nobody spoke after that. In the end, Vanessa sold the jacket and the gaming setup, borrowed the rest from friends and paid her own rent. She did not thank me, and I didn't need her to. That night I returned home, made another cup of tea, and sat by the window. I looked around my apartment. It was peaceful, clean, and finally my again. There are no notifications, no emergencies, and no invisible debts. For the first time in years, my life did not revolve around someone else's chaos. That was my. It's surprising how peaceful things may feel after years of tumult. There were no calls, guilt, or panic notifications on my phone, only silence. Not the hefty sort, but the one that hums lightly like a fresh start. A week after the strategy meal, I got up at 6:30 a.m. Out of habit, I anticipated the usual anxiety. An overdraft alert, a note from Vanessa, something to address. But there was nothing. My hands did not shake when reaching for the phone. My coffee did not taste of tiredness. It simply tasted like coffee. For the first time I sat down and liked it. When I arrived at work that morning, my boyfriend, Ethan, was waiting outside with 3 lattes and the gentle grin that always made me feel comfortable. He'd mainly stayed out of the drama, respecting my privacy, but he'd noticed the emotional toll. He handed me the coffee. So, how is freedom? Lighter, I replied, smiling faintly. Weirdly light, he agreed. It is supposed to feel odd. You've spent years carrying weight that wasn't your own. I glanced at him, understanding how rare it was for someone to say that without judgment or pity. Just the reality. That afternoon, Olivia texted me. She just barely paid her rent. I sold some stuff and borrowed the rest. I looked at it for a long time. Relief wasn't the emotion I expected. But it arrived nonetheless. Vanessa had solved a problem on her own for once. Several weeks passed. My parents attempted to reach out with caution, as if they were approaching a wild animal they had underestimated. Mom sent recipes as a peace offering. I made your favorite stew today. I miss you. Dad left a quick voicemail. You were right about some things. I did not rush to respond. I wasn't angry anymore. Just be careful. Vanessa, however, remained mute. Nor a text, nor a call. The absence seemed unusual, but I didn't feel it. Boundaries imply embracing silence, even when you want closure. 2 months later, Olivia asked me to her new apartment for a modest party. When I went in, Vanessa was the first person I noticed. She looked different, smaller. Not physically, but with her energy. No fancy clothing, no full face of makeup, no entitlement gleaming behind her eyes. Just tired. Human. She looked up, and for a moment I thought she'd turn away. However, she didn't. Hey, she spoke gently. Hey. We remained there in awkward stillness until Olivia burst in with her signature cheer. Look, my 2 favorite cousins are finally in the same room. Who wants wine? We both laughed, hesitantly but genuinely. Vanessa approached me by the balcony when the noise died down and the majority of the visitors had left. I sold the watch, she replied gently. And the bag. I even picked up some warehouse shifts. It is humbling. I'm glad, I replied simply. She gazed down at her hands. I used to persuade myself you assisted because you enjoyed manipulating others. But I understand it now. You simply didn't know how to stop. That made me pause. You're not wrong. She nodded, her eyes wet. I'm sorry, C. It wasn't theatrical, no tears or hugs. Just 2 ladies standing in the quiet truth of what they had done to one another and were now learning to undo. Weeks have passed. Seasons altered. My life was full of little, tranquil rituals. Thursday nights at pottery class, Sunday morning walks with Ethan, and late dinners with Olivia. I began regaining aspects of my life that I had given up one transaction at a time. My couch was no longer a guest bed. My paycheck remained in my account. My energy was not spent correcting someone else's decisions. One evening, I was sitting on that same couch going through photos when I came across one from 3 years ago of me and Vanessa at a cafe. Her smile was big and I looked fatigued, my eyes red from sobbing. I remembered that day. She had begged for one final loan. I had said yes. I stared at the photo for a long time before deleting it. Not out of anger, but out of peace. Months later, I saw Vanessa's photo on social media. She was standing in front of a small, unadorned apartment, with mismatched furniture, a mattress on the floor, and a plant on the windowsill. She had brought the identical plant when she first showed up at my door 3 years ago. I felt neither pity nor smugness, I simply felt free, because maybe that's what love is all about. Not constantly protecting someone, but finally allowing them to face their own darkness so they may find their own light. That night, I sent a quick SMS. Proud of you. She responded hours later. Thanks for everything. Even the hard part. Sometime after midnight, I laid in bed. The silence enveloping the entire room. I recognized something I'd never let myself believe before. Boundaries are not unkind. They are the most genuine type of love there is. Love without them is not compassion. It's debt disguised as loyalty. For many years I mistook stillness for serenity and sacrifice for commitment. But now I understand the reality. Sometimes you don't even have to raise your voice to win. Just softly pull the cord and watch the lights turn off. You're more of an ATM than a son, Dad said. After 16 months of $2,200 payments, I canceled the transfer. 28 days later, the bank called him first. I learned out I wasn't invited to my niece's 9th birthday celebration via Instagram. Amanda had shared a video of Lily blowing out candles while surrounded by cousins, aunts, uncles, and half the neighborhood. Balloons, a bounce house, and a table laden with presents. Everyone was present except for me. I checked my mails. Nothing. No invitation. No. Sorry, we forgot you. I called Amanda. Ryan, hello, what's up? I just seen the party on Instagram. Looks like fun. Pause. Oh yeah. I didn't get an invite. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Limited space and... Amanda, you've got a bounce house. There are 25 persons there. It just turned out this way. Do not make it a thing. Do not make it a thing. Put Dad on. Ryan, put him on. Muffled voices. Then Dad, slightly mumbled from his drinking. Ryan, hello friend, great party. You should see? Why was I not invited? What? It's Lily's birthday, why was I not invited? Oh well, Amanda had to make tough choices. I am her brother. Lily's uncle. Yes, but let us be honest here. You aren't truly family in the sense that matters for these things. Something chilly settled into my chest. What does that mean? It indicates you are more of a resource, a wallet. You aid us when we need it, but you're not truly involved in day-to-day family life. The wallet. Dad, I have been paying your mortgage for 16 months. And we appreciate that, but that doesn't mean you get a say in family events. I could not talk. Look, don't take anything personally. If you help us financially, we can keep the family going. It works. He hung up. 16 months ago, Dad lost his job. The manufacturing plant is closed. At 56, he couldn't find anything comparable to what he was earning. He called me, his voice shaking. Ryan, I'm not sure what to do. The mortgage costs $2,200 each month. I am going to lose my house. The home where Mom died 4 years ago. I'll help, I said quickly. I'll cover it until you get back on your feet. I was earning $68,000 as a software developer. I could make it if I cut back. So I did. Cheaper apartment. No dining out. I drove my 10-year-old Honda into the ground. Every month, $2,200. Direct deposit. Never late. Initially, he would text, "Thank you." Then the updates ceased. Texts become demands. Could you send it earlier this month? Payment is late. I need it by the 3rd. I became an ATM, not a son. My phone vibrated. Aunt Karen sent a text. I'm sorry Karen couldn't make it to the celebration. Lily inquired about you. Lily inquired about me. They did not invite me, but she noticed. I called Karen. Hey Ryan. How are you? Why was I not invited? Oh, well, Amanda had to keep the guest list manageable. Karen, there were 25 people there. Well, yes, but close family. And I'm her brother. Silence. Ryan, we're okay without you around. These events are regarding the core family. You're preoccupied with your own life regardless. We are fine without you. I pay Dad's mortgage, I explained quietly. And we appreciate it. But that doesn't imply you have to attend every family function. When was the last time I got invited to something? Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Amanda's birthday. She didn't respond. What if I stop paying tomorrow? Will I be suddenly invited? That's not fair. Answer the question. Ryan, your father needs the money. You cannot just. So that's a no. If that's how you feel, maybe you shouldn't attend family occasions. We don't need the negative. She hung up. I sat there for a while. Then I opened my banking app and discovered the regular payment of $2,200, which is scheduled for the 1st of each month. I stared at my phone. Another Instagram story. Lily cut the cake. Dad laughs in the background. I'm having a fantastic time at a party I sponsored but wasn't invited to, in a property I'd paid for. While they said I wasn't family, I canceled the recurring payment and texted Dad. Effective immediately. I'm discontinuing mortgage payments. You have 28 days to make alternate arrangements. I blocked his phone number. Amanda's been blocked. Karen's been blocked. I deleted Instagram. I wasn't family. I was only a wallet. And the wallet was closed. The first week seemed unusual. I felt relieved rather than sorry, as I had anticipated to. My bank account suddenly had an additional $2,200. I'd grown accustomed to being broke that having money seemed weird. Jake, a coworker, observed. You seem lighter. Made some changes. Good ones? Time will tell. My phone remained quiet. They probably had not noticed yet. Payment was not due for 3 weeks. On day 8, an unknown number contacted, leaving a voicemail from Amanda on a friend's phone. What the hell, Ryan? Dad says you canceled the payment. You cannot do that. He's about to lose his house. This is insane. I removed it. Another call. Karen, this time with a different phone number. Ryan. This is cruel. Your father is beside himself. Your mother would be ashamed. That is dumb. However, I still erased it. They tried everything. Work numbers, friends' phones, and blocked numbers. Every time, it goes to voicemail. Every time, delete. Being someone's wallet means you only matter when the money stops. On day 12, Dad sent an email that was long, rambling, and contained elements of guilt, anger, and desperate pleading. I reared and nourished you, and now you're repaying me. Your mom would be heartbroken. This house is the final remnant of her. You are taking it away from Lily. How can you be so selfish? I responded with one line. You said I wasn't family. I am simply a wallet. The wallet is closed. His response came quickly. I didn't mean it that way. I was drinking. You're being sensitive. Sensitive. Mom used the same word when I pointed out how differently they treated me and Amanda. I did not respond. On day 13, they went nuclear. A Facebook post by Amanda, public. Some people put money before family. My brother Ryan has decided to cease assisting our father. Dad is ready to lose his house, the place our mother died in, because Ryan is upset about not being invited to one party. Here's what selfishness looks like. Comments came in. How horrible. Your poor father. Aunt Karen shared it. Heartbroken. Family should help family, not desert them due to hurt feelings. No mention of 16 months of payments, $35,000, or merely a wallet. Jake saw it. I called immediately. Is this real, dude? Yeah. You've been paying his mortgage for 16 months, and they didn't invite you to a birthday party, among other things. Would you like me to comment? Set the record straight? No, let them have their story. Everyone thinks you're the bad guy. Everyone who matters already knew I was invisible. On day 20, a registered letter arrived from a lawyer. Dad threatened to sue for breach of verbal contract. I called the number. Henderson and Cole Law Offices. I received a cease and desist regarding Ryan Bennett. Ah, yes. Your father claims that you made a binding pledge. Do you have anything written? No. Then there is no contract. You were assisting. You're going to stop. That is your right. Silence. I'll relay your response. The letter landed in the garbage. Day 26. Payment was due in 2 days. My phone rang nonstop. Unknown numerals. All hours. The voicemails became desperate. Amanda. Lily is crying. She does not want Grandpa to lose his home. Do you truly want to be the uncle who did this? Dad, I apologize. Okay. I apologize for what I said. Please. The bank is calling. Please, Ryan. Sorry about what I said. Not, I was wrong. Just apologizing. He spoke the silent portion aloud. I removed it. Day 28. I awoke to 14 missed calls. I made coffee. Went to work. At 10:45 a.m., my inbox chimed with a snapshot of a message attached to Dad's door. Notice of default. Foreclosure procedures will begin in 28 days. A text message from an unknown number appeared below it. Are you happy now? I stared at the photo for a long time, thinking about 16 months of payments, being labeled a wallet, and being excluded while I kept their life going. I typed the word yes and blocked the number. I was done apologizing for setting boundaries. I'm done apologizing for refusing to be used. Their emergency was no longer my concern. I was finally free. The foreclosure notification granted them 28 days. I gave them silence. No responses, no bargaining, no second chances. For the first time in 16 months, I began living my own life. The extra $2,200 per month was like inhaling after being submerged. I moved into a better apartment with 1 bedroom, natural light, and a dishwasher. I bought new garments that did not come from the bargain rack. I went out to dinner without checking my financial account first. These were minor details, yet they had a significant impact. Jake sensed a change. You look different, happier. I feel lighter, like I've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. Is there any word from them? They keep trying. Every day brings new numbers. I block them all. Do you feel guilty? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. I feel free. 3 weeks following the foreclosure notice, the harassment escalated. My work email. Someone had found it. Amanda. Ryan, I am emailing because you have banned everything else. Please. Dad is desperate. The bank has threatened eviction. We have 3 weeks. Lily doesn't understand why Uncle Ryan isn't helping Grandpa anymore. She cries every night. Is this truly who you want to be? I forwarded it to HR and described the circumstances. They prohibited all external emails from her address. Then Dad sent me a letter via physical mail to my new residence. Handwritten. Ryan, I am begging you. I was mistaken. I uttered some nasty things. I took you for granted. I apologize. Please don't let my blunders ruin anything. This is your mom's residence. Her memory. Please. I read it once and then stored it in a drawer. Nor discarded, nor responded. Simply stored. Perhaps there is some evidence. Or closure. I wasn't certain yet. Things started to go weird around the 5th week. An unknown number called. I was ready to decline when something compelled me to answer. Ryan, it's Lily. My niece. 9 years old. On the phone. My heart has stopped. Lily, how did you? I took Mom's phone. She does not know. Her voice was small and terrified. Uncle Ryan, why don't you help Grandpa? Did I do something wrong? The guilt struck like a truck. No, Lily. You did not do anything wrong. Then why? Mom claims you're being mean. That you no longer care about your family. I closed my eyes. Of course, they had militarized her. Lily, this is complicated. It's adult stuff between me and your grandfather. But he is about to lose his home. Mom believes it is your fault. Did your mother tell you why? She said you're mad about my birthday party, that you're upset you weren't invited. Did she tell you I had been paying Grandpa's mortgage for a year and 4 months? Silence. What is a mortgage? The money is for the house. I've been paying so Grandpa can continue to live there. Have you? Yeah, $2,200 per month. That's a lot. It is. And do you know what Grandpa told me? He said I wasn't actually family, that I am just a wallet. Do you understand what that means? A wallet is where you keep money. Right, he stated I am just good for money, not for a birthday, Christmas or Thanksgiving. Just money. That's mean. It was. And it stung. So I stopped paying. Lily was silent back then. I apologize, Uncle Ryan. I didn't know. It is not your fault, sweetheart. None of this is your fault. I wanted you to attend my party. I asked Mom why you weren't present. She said you were busy. My chest tightened. I was not busy. I was not invited. That's not fair. No, it's not. I'm sorry. Thank you, Lily. That means a lot. Could you help Grandpa anyway? Even if he was mean. I exhaled. Lily, sometimes grown-ups have to make difficult decisions. Your grandpa needs to figure this out himself. She sniffled. Okay. I love you, Uncle Ryan. I love you too, Lily. She hung up. I sat there feeling like the worst person ever. Not because I was wrong, but because they had placed a 9-year-old in the middle of it. Amanda called again 4 minutes later, using the same number. I responded. How dare you? Her voice trembled with wrath. How dare you tell Lily that Dad referred to you as a wallet? She's 9 years old. You got her on the phone, Amanda. You are the one using her as a weapon. She wants to speak to you. You told her it was my fault her grandfather was losing his home. You put that burden on a 9-year-old. It's your fault. You're the one that stopped paying after 16 months of being excluded from everything, while keeping our life going. After Dad literally told you you are not family. He didn't mean it. He meant every word. Aunt Karen did as well. So did you. When you didn't ask me to Lily's party. One party? Ryan, you are killing our family over a single party. It was not a single party. It was at every party, holiday and family gathering for years. I simply didn't notice since I was too busy being your ATM. She was crying now. We need the money. Dad needs it. Please. Amanda, you don't need money. You should work out your own life. In 3 weeks. We have 3 weeks before the bank takes the house. Then you better spend those 3 weeks figuring it out instead of calling me. I hung up. I've also blocked that number. The next day, Jake called me. Dude, you need to see this. He provided me a link. There's a GoFundMe. Help save a family's home. Amanda's name. Dad's photo. The house. My father is a dedicated man who lost his job due to circumstances beyond his control. He is striving to maintain the family home where his late wife lived and where his granddaughter celebrates birthdays. The bank is threatening to foreclose. We're appealing for your aid to preserving this important family memory. Goal: $22,000. Current amount raised, $320. I read the description. There was no mention of 16 months of payments from me. There was no mention of the $35,000 I had already provided them. A hard-working man as well as struggling family. The comments drew me in. Praying for you. Family is everything. I gave what I could. God bless. I showed Jake. They're crowdfunding without mentioning you paid for a year and 4 months. Certainly not. That does not match their story. Do you intend to comment? Set the record straight? I thought about it. About disclosing everything, including receipts, bank statements, and even screenshots of a single wallet. Then I remembered what my mother used to say. The truth does not have to be loud. It simply needs to be true. No, I replied. Let them raise their money, you're not. In any case, that was not my problem. The GoFundMe campaign gathered traction within their church community. By the end of the week, they had raised $3,200 out of a total of $22,000 needed. With 1 week to foreclosure, I saw the number progressively increase. I watched the comments of support. Amanda shared updates, thanking everyone for their contributions. It was not going to be enough. Not even close. And it was no longer my problem. Then, 2 days before the foreclosure date, something unexpected occurred. A message request on LinkedIn from Melissa Reed. I didn't recognize the name, but something about Reed caught my attention. I opened it. Hello, Ryan. You don't know me, but I am your father's cousin. I live in Portland. I learned about the house predicament through family gossip. Can we speak? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I accepted the request and said, sure. Melissa was in her mid-50s, dressed professionally, and had gentle eyes that reminded me of my mother. Thank you for meeting me, she replied. I understand this must seem unusual. I have never heard Dad mention you. We aren't close. I haven't been for years. There was a disagreement. She stirred the coffee. Ryan, I'd want to hear your perspective. I have heard the family version. I'd want to hear yours. So I told her everything, the 16-month payment plan, the birthday party, the just a wallet chat, Aunt Karen's we're fine without you, the harassment, and Lily's phone call. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she gave a hesitant nod. That sounds exactly like my cousin Thomas and his sister Karen. Are you not surprised? Not even a little. They did something similar to me 18 years ago. Borrowed funds for a business venture. Promised to repay me. When I sought for it after 2 years, they accused me of being greedy and not supporting my family. I never saw a penny. How much? $13,000. Back then that was all I had saved. I felt something settle. Validation. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Was not cruel. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry it's happening to you, she said. She took out her phone. I noticed the GoFundMe. Read the description. They left out some important details. They left out all the details. I figured. Ryan, I'd want to ask you a question, and I want you to be honest. Do you want them to lose their house? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I do not want Lily to suffer. But Dad, Amanda and Karen need to realize that people are not ATMs. That you cannot treat someone as garbage and expect them to continue giving. That's fair, she remarked with a small smile. For what it's worth, I believe you did the correct thing. Setting boundaries is not unkind. It is healthy. Tell that to the Facebook comments. Facebook comments are left by persons who do not know the whole issue. You know the truth. That is what matters. We talked for another hour, about family, limits, and going forward. When we stood up to depart, she hugged me. If you need anything, someone to talk to, someone who understands, call me. You are not alone. Driving home I felt lighter than I had in weeks. Melissa didn't solve anything, she simply made someone understand. The following day was the foreclosure deadline. I awoke and checked my phone. There are no calls or texts, just silence. The GoFundMe had raised $5,400. Not enough. Not even close. My doorbell rang at 2:30 p.m. I opened it and found Aunt Karen standing there. Ryan, we need to talk. I glanced at Aunt Karen on my porch. She appeared exhausted, with little makeup on, her hair pulled back messily, and a crumpled sweatshirt. Can I come inside? No. Ryan, please. 4 minutes. 3 minutes. Right here. The foreclosure is today at 2:30. We are $5,000 short. Please. That's all we need. No. Ryan, you said you were okay without me. That I was not part of the main family. Why would you want money from someone who isn't related? I was angry. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. For years. Her eyes flooded with tears. One remark at a party. Are you going to destroy his life over this? It was not a single comment. It was 16 months of being treated like an ATM and excluded from everything. We thought you were busy. You thought I was convenient. There when you needed money, invisible when you didn't. Please, I plead. 5,000. I will pay you back. I do not want your money. I want you to understand that people are not wallets. Are you just going to let him lose everything? No, you are. Because you spent a month harassing me rather than finding solutions. She stood there, crying. I hope you can live with yourself. I can. Can you? She departed. My hand shook as I closed the door. Not from guilt, but from finally establishing a barrier. At 2:45 p.m., my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I'm crying on the other end. Then Dad's voice. They took it. The house. It's gone. I said nothing. Ryan, please. We can solve this if you just... No. I'm your father. You are the man who called me a wallet. Who told me I'm not family. I was inebriated. I am sorry. You're sorry you said it out loud, not that you meant it. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair. But that is no longer my problem. I hung up. I blocked the number. Then I opened a bottle of decent wine and felt no remorse. Melissa sent me a message 2 weeks later. I saw on Facebook that Amanda is hosting a new start party this weekend. I thought you should know. A party? Of course. Can you send me the address on time? She sent it within an hour. Saturday at 2 p.m., family festivity, new beginnings. Melissa informed me that Dad had purchased a new car 3 months ago, which he had financed at an absurdly high interest rate. Could not afford the payments. The repossession company was looking for it. Dad had hidden it at Amanda's. On Saturday, that repo vehicle was supposed to show up. I didn't cause it, I just knew it was coming. And I made sure I got a front row seat. Saturday at 1:45 p.m., I parked down the street, far enough to remain hidden but close enough to observe everything. Cars lined the driveway. Balloons on the mailbox. People are walking in carrying dishes. At 2:47 p.m., a flatbed tow truck entered the roadway. I sat up straighter. The truck arrived at Amanda's residence. The driver examined his tablet, then stepped out and knocked. Amanda answered. Her face changed from friendly to scared. She made a call inside. Dad appeared and started yelling. People came out. The party ended. The driver displayed papers. Dad attempted to block the automobile. Amanda was on the phone. Karen came out yelling. The motorist didn't care, he had documentation. Dad's black Charger, the one he bought to feel youthful, began rolling onto the flatbed. Dad attempted to stop it. Couldn't. Just stood there as his car drove away in front of everyone at their fresh start gathering. Amanda was crying. Karen was yelling. Dad seemed defeated. Partygoers began leaving rapidly and awkwardly. Some people filmed with their phones. By dinner time, this would have gone viral on Facebook. The truck pulled away. Guests scattered. I saw Amanda standing in her empty driveway, looking devastated. I started the car and headed home. Jake called an hour later. Have you seen Facebook? No. What happened? This is your sister's celebration. The repossession vehicle stole your father's car, in the middle of the party. It's everywhere. Wow. Ryan, did you know? I knew it was being repossessed. Not exactly when. That's savage. That's consequences. People commented, asking why he had a new automobile when he couldn't afford his mortgage. Good. Let them ask. That night, videos surfaced from various angles. The remarks shifted. Wait, he purchased a new car? If he couldn't afford his mortgage, why would he finance a Charger? Something does not add up. Amanda posted. My father is going through a difficult period. Please respect our privacy. But the questions kept coming. Where is Ryan? Haven't seen him at family events. Didn't Ryan aid them financially? The story was cracking, I did not make a comment. They did not explain, just watched. Melissa sent a text on Sunday morning. Your father is currently raising money for the car. Another GoFundMe. I looked it up. Help Thomas reclaim his car. Wrongful repossession. Goal, $7,000. The amount raised is $0. Comments. Haven't you just lost your house? If Ryan paid your mortgage, where did the money go? Why is this family constantly asking for handouts? The truth was out. Not because I said it, but because they couldn't get their story straight. I closed the application. I blocked Facebook. I did not need to see it anymore. I made my point without saying anything. Finally, I was free. 3 weeks after the repo truck event, my life had returned to something approximating serenity. No more calls from unknown numbers. No more desperate emails. No more family members are coming up at my door. They had finally received the message. I had started treatment. I did not feel guilty, but Jake said it would help me digest everything. Dr. Ellis was in her 50s, with kind eyes and no tolerance for BS. So your family treated you like an ATM for 16 months, she explained during our third session. And when you stopped paying, they made you the villain. Pretty much. How does this make you feel? Free, is that wrong? She smiled. Not at all. Setting boundaries is not unkind. It is healthy. Working conditions improved as well. Without the continual stress of paying someone else's mortgage, I could concentrate. Was promoted to senior developer. There was also a raise. Jake brought me out to celebrate. Look at you. New apartment, promotion, and actual savings. You're thriving. Feels weird, like I'm waiting for something to go wrong. That's known as trauma response. You spent 16 months on survival mode. It takes time to adjust to stability. On Saturday morning my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and saw Lily with a woman I didn't recognize. I opened the door. Hey, Uncle Ryan. Lily's face brightened up. The woman stepped forward. Hello, this is Hannah Lewis, Amanda's buddy. Lily requested me to bring her. She was insistent. That's okay. Come in. Hannah waited in the car. Lily looked to me with determination. I needed to see you. Does your mother know you are here? No, she'd be upset, but I don't mind. I sat across from her. What's going on, Lily? I apologize for everything. For what they told you. For manipulating me to make you unhappy. Lily, you are 9. None of this is your fault. But I was mean to you on the phone. Hannah told me what really happened. How you paid for Grandpa's house. How they didn't invite you to my party. How Grandpa called you a wallet. Lily, your grandfather and your mother made decisions. These choices had effects. That is not abandonment. Rather, it is a set of boundaries. What are the boundaries? It's when you decide what you will and won't accept from people. Even family. She nodded slowly. That makes sense. Can I still see you if Mom says no? My chest tightened. Lily, I don't want to make things harder for you at home. It is already hard. Mom and Grandpa are fighting all the time now. About money, about the house. About you. She looked at me with eyes that were much older than 9. Mom says you are the reason everything went apart. But I believe things were always falling apart. You simply quit holding it together. From the mouths of children. Do you know you're pretty smart? She smiled. Can we do something? Just us. Like, grab ice cream? Okay. But I'll text your mother afterwards so she knows where you are. She's going to yell probably, but that's on me, not you. We spent an hour at the ice cream shop near my place. We simply talked about school, her classmates, and her drawings. Before she departed, Lily hugged me. Thank you for not giving up on me. I could never give up on you, kid. After they had left, I texted Amanda. Lily came to see me today. She is safe. She wanted to talk. I am open to discussing boundaries for future interaction. She responded an hour later. How dare you see her behind my back? Stay away from my daughter. I did not respond. I just shared the message to Hannah with a note. Thank you for bringing her. Please let me know if Lily needs anything. 8 months later, my life had drastically changed. New flat with 2 bedrooms presently. Better vehicle, actual savings account. I dated. Nothing serious, but I was open to it. It turns out that when you're not financially and emotionally tired, you have more energy for others. Lily and I texted periodically. Amanda disliked it, but she had given up trying to avoid it. Dad had moved in with Amanda. Melissa described the situation as heated, with a lot of squabbling over money. I met Karen at the grocery store one day. We established eye contact. She hurriedly glanced away, grabbed her cart, and fled. There was no confrontation, no apologies, just avoidance. And that was okay. I didn't need her apologies. I had already moved on. Jake and I went to dinner one Friday. You know what is wild? He stated. 1 year ago you were broke, stressed, and unhappy. Now look at you. The best decision I've ever made was to cut them off. Setting boundaries. There is a difference. He raised his glass. To boundaries. To boundaries, I repeated. That night, I received a text from an unknown number. Hi Ryan, this is Dad. I know you have blocked me, therefore I am using a friend's phone. I wanted to apologize. I sincerely apologize. For everything. You were correct. I took you for granted. They treated you like a pocketbook. I was wrong. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond and accept the apologies. But another part, which had learnt that people do not change just because they apologize, knew better. I sent one message. I appreciate your apology, but I am not ready to restore this relationship. Maybe someday, but not today. I pressed send. Then I blocked that number too. Because forgiveness does not imply reconciliation. And boundaries do not make you cruel. They make you healthy. 3 years after I quit paying Dad's mortgage, I purchased my first home. Nothing large. 4 bedrooms and a decent yard. I held a housewarming party. Jake arrived. Melissa arrived. Hannah brought Lily with Amanda's consent. Surprisingly, some co-workers and new acquaintances knew me for who I was rather than what I could supply. Jake made a toast. To Ryan, who realized that the best investment isn't in other people's homes. It is within yourself. Everyone cheered. Lily drew me aside. I'm proud of you, Uncle Ryan. Thank you, youngster. I'm proud of you too. For what? For being courageous enough to seek the truth. I learned that from you. You taught me that sometimes stepping away is the most powerful thing you can do. I looked at this now 11-year-old, who had figured out what it had taken me 30 years to master. You're going to be fine, Lily. Better than okay. So are you. And you know what? She was correct. Because I had ceased being a wallet and became a person. And it made all the difference.